Chapter 1863, Slaying 3 Overgods with the Sword. 1. Patriarch, what are you planning to do? Are you going to help the Ling family? That'll be provoking the Empyrean demon cult and becoming enemies with them. Xiu was greatly surprised. Her eyes widened as she stared at Jian Chen in disbelief. To her, saving the Ling family would only end up dooming himself. Although the patriarch was very powerful, no weaker than Yan Kai, who was known as the greatest expert below God King in the divine kingdom of Pingtian, there were a total of 3 overgods who had trapped the Ling family. They might not be the patriarch's opponent even when combined. However, even if the patriarch could kill them, doing so would be equivalent to becoming enemies with the Empyrean demon cult. Without a single doubt, that was just asking the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan to die. Jian Chen stared at Xiu and said sternly, I have my own plans for this matter. Xiu, take Mo Yen with you and leave the royal capital immediately. Rush back to the Tian Yuan clan. I have a task for you. Jian Chen got a brush and some ink. He wrote down several dozen materials in a hurry before passing it to Xiu. He said, once you get back to the clan, tell all the elders to find all the materials on the list as soon as possible. The more the better. Xiu knew that Jian Chen had made up his mind. There was nothing she could do to change the mind of an overgod once they had decided on something. As a result, Xiu could only sigh gently inside. She left the royal capital with Mo Yen and the list of several dozen materials. Jian Chen did not remain around for long after Xiu and Mo Yan's departure. He found his orientation and shot off to the sword-seeking province. High in the air, Jian Chen felt like he still was not moving fast enough. He formed a seal and used the linear lightning release, shooting off at unbelievable speeds as a bolt of lightning. He could only maintain the linear lightning release for a very short amount of time, so his speed would only be increased for a short instance every time he used it. However, he was still able to traverse an extremely great distance every time he used it. Jian Chen used the linear lightning release several times so that he could reach the sword-seeking province as soon as possible. Back in the royal palace of the Divine Kingdom, the Divine King and the Grand Imperial Protector were currently playing chess extremely leisurely in the pavilion within the royal gardens. Jian Chen has already left the royal capital and is currently heading towards the sword-seeking province. Just as I had expected, he would go help out the Ling family. The Divine King was confident. The Grand Imperial Protector raised his head when he heard that. He looked at the Divine King and said, Pingtian, there's just one thing I don't really understand. Didn't you say that there was no reason to fear the Empyrean demon cult a few days ago? Since there's no reason to fear them, why didn't you let the commander of the Royal Divine Army, Xiando, go handle the 3 overgods? Even if you're worrying that the 3 overgods have some trump card and that Xiando is not their opponent, why didn't you send me instead? With my strength, I think I can handle a few overgods no matter what their trump cards are without experiencing any threat at all. The Grand Imperial Protector continued from there, or in other words, the Empyrean demon cult should be feared? You're using this opportunity to lure out the people behind Jian Chen so that you can use them against the Empyrean demon cult? The Divine King shook his head, it's true. Right now, there's no need to fear the Empyrean demon cult. The people from the empires really have been paying attention to the movements of the Empyrean demon cult. I can already vaguely sense several powerful senses of the soul sweep by in the past few years. They're basically all from the primordial realm experts of the empires. The reason why I didn't get you to act is because both you and Xiando represent the royal family of our divine kingdom of Pingtian. Once you do move against them, the Empyrean demon cult will believe we are acting against them. In order to protect their dignity, the Empyrean demon cult will probably invade our divine kingdom of Pingtian even when they know they'll come into conflict with the empires from how the Empyrean demon cult has been doing things. But Jian Chen is different. His Tian Yuan clan hasn't even existed for a century. Strictly speaking, he's not even a part of the divine kingdom of Pingtian. It's extremely likely that we can avoid a war with the Empyrean demon cult by using him against them. The Grand Imperial Protector's eyes also lit up with that. He added, moreover, there's the Primordial Realm expert who has recovered their body and the young mazer of a great clan who has a god king as a bodyguard behind Jian Chen. If Jian Chen really kills the 3 overgods, they'll have to consider it carefully if they want to move against him. They would have to see whether the lives of 3 overgods are worth running the likely risk of offending a Primordial Realm expert and a powerful clan. The Divine King said, the reason why there is no reason to fear the Empyrean demon cult is because the empires will stand forward and stop them. As for the 3 overgods who have trapped the sword-seeking province, only Jian Chen can kill them if they must die. It's inappropriate for other overgods to take action. Ping Tian, when you suddenly mentioned the Empyrean demon cult to Jian Chen, did you know already that the Empyrean demon cult would come to find Ling Hogong? The Grand Imperial Protector asked. The Divine King smiled, neither confirming or denying the Grand Imperial Protector's thoughts. He pointed at the chessboard, it's your turn. The patriarch of the Ling family, Ling Majian, and all their elders stood within the clan with sunken faces. Aside from them, almost all the clansmen of the Ling family had already become pale-faced. They were ashen and filled with despair. Lu Shan and his 2 early overgod deputies stood on the black clouds. They hung in the sky as they stared down coldly. Even though this was the divine kingdom of Pingtian, the 3 of them were completely fearless. They did not believe that anyone would come and stand in their way. This was because the 9th army of the Empyrean demon cult was currently in the divine kingdom of 3 cauldrons, which was quite close to the divine kingdom of Pingtian. A black thread suddenly extended from the huge black net that engulfed the entire province. It directly wrapped around an elder of the Ling family before wrenching him high up in the sky. The gods of the Ling family were completely helpless against it. There was nothing that they could do because it was Lu Shan taking action. In the past few days, Lu Shan had already used the same method to brutally kill several elders of the Ling family. It's another day. I'll kill this god today. Ling Majian, if your ancestor returns, you'll still be able to save this person. After all, my original intentions weren't to kill off the Ling family, Lu Shan said coldly. Ling Majian shut his eyes painfully. He was filled with sorrow. He had waited for so many days, but the divine kingdom had not sent any reinforcements at all. He knew that the Ling family was doomed. However, Ling Majian did not blame anyone. As a matter of fact, he was expecting this. After all, they were the Empyrean demon cult. Before the Empyrean demon cult, even the entire divine kingdom would probably be unable to stop any of their armies. Chapter 1864, Slaying 3 Overgods with the Sword, 2, Ling Majian, it looks like you've chosen to abandon the god again, Lu Shan stood on the black cloud and said coldly. Soon afterwards, he sighed gently and shook his head in regret, as an elder of the Ling family, even if you haven't made any meritorious contributions to the clan, you've worked hard. But in the end, the Ling family mercilessly abandons you. They could clearly help you and save you, but they just choose not to. Looks like the gods of the Ling family are not worth a single dime to the patriarch. What a pity indeed. As he said that, Lu Shan gradually tightened his hand. The black thread around the god immediately began to tighten gradually along with Lu Shan's movement. Like a knife, the threads gradually sliced into the god's flesh. Blood immediately poured out, dyeing him red. In the blink of an eye, he had become covered in blood. It was a horrific sight. Clearly, Lu Shan could cut the god to pieces with his control over the black threads. However, he had never planned to deal with the god instantly. He purposefully created this heart-wrenching scene for the Ling family to see, attacking them psychologically. Ling Majian, I'll give you another half a minute. If you contact Ling Hogong, or if Ling Hogong appears, I'll spare this person. Otherwise, he'll definitely be reduced to an incomplete corpse, Lu Shan said coldly. However, he felt rather worried and annoyed inside. So many days had passed already, but he still had not completed the mission he received from Commander Yen Wuming. If he wasted too much time, he was afraid he would displease the commander. If you want to kill me, then kill me. I'm not afraid of dying. Patriarch, never contact the ancestor. The ancestor can't come back. He can't appear here. As long as the ancestor is alive, he can rebuild the clan even if the clan ceases to exist, the god who had been wrapped up in the black thread called out furiously. He felt no fear for death at all. Do you want to die? Lu Shan's face sank. The killing intent in his gaze towards the god increased. Arg! The god produced a chilling wail. The black threads had already cut deep into his flesh, reaching his bone. He could even feel all his bones break. Even his skull had shattered. All the people from the Ling family shut their eyes. They were unwilling to witness this scene. Sorrow filled all their faces and even some of the elders began to shed tears of sorrow. Stop! Suddenly, a voice rang out from the distance. In the beginning, it was very soft, just like a mosquito. However, it grew louder at an unbelievable speed. Towards the end, it was thunderous, creating an echo through the surroundings. The terrifying sound wave even seemed to form visible ripples, expanding and actually causing the entire city to shake slightly. Before the countless people in the city could react, a resplendent streak of light suddenly appeared in the distance. It shone with great radiance, illuminating the world like the scorching sun. The light was simply too bright. The black clouds formed from the demonic aura that had swallowed up the entire sword-seeking province even paled before it. The streak of light moved extremely quickly, jetting over from the distance. In just a flash, it crossed an extremely great distance and arrived above the sword-seeking province. It did not slow down at all, directly ramming into the black net that had covered the entire province. Rumble. With a deafening sound, the black net that Lu Shan had cast down directly tore open, forming a huge hole that was 300 meters across from the streak of light. The streak of light was unstoppable, directly falling towards the provincial city. The black net was a medium-quality saint artifact. Lu Shan had refined it, so it was bound to his life. As a result, when the black net was damaged, Lu Shan suffered as well. His face paled in a single instance, and he produced an extremely deep grunt. His body also quivered. Lu Shan was injured while the god from the Ling family bound by the black threads had avoided a calamity. He directly fell out of the sky and was caught by another god. The light vanished in the provincial city and revealed a young man in white robes. He only seemed to be in his 20s. The young man was the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, Jian Chen. Jian Chen had dispersed the light around him, so he seemed like an ordinary person. He stood in the air and stared at the three over-gods from the Empyrean demon cult in the distance. His eyes were cold. All the gods of the Ling family were stunned and they saw Jian Chen in the sky. Their emotions became mixed. There was surprise and joy as well as sighs. The sighing elders were naturally the people who did not wish for Jian Chen to come, as the Tian Yuan clan would offend the Empyrean demon cult if he did. An elder could not help but cry out. However, right after he let out just a single word, Ling Majian firmly shut his mouth. We're a part of the 9th Army of the Empyrean demon cult. We directly answer to Commander Yen Wuming. Who are you, sir? Do you plan on becoming enemies with our Empyrean demon cult by interfering? One of Lu Shan's deputies said coldly as he glared at Jian Chen. You've gone too far, Empyrean demon cult. You're killing a bunch of people who are only gods at most despite being over-gods. Since you like killing the weak so much, I'll show you how it feels today, Jian Chen said coldly. His face was completely sunken, and he was filled with killing intent. The senses of his soul had already surrounded the entire sword-seeking province. He discovered that aside from the Ling family, over 1,000 people had died to Lu Shan's hands as well. Every single death was extremely horrific, with the deceased having been carved to countless pieces. With a thought, the high-quality saint artifact, the startling rainbow sword, appeared in Jian Chen's hands. Although he could kill the 3 overgods without even using the sword given his current strength, he wanted to finish the battle fast. The face of the early overgod who had spoken before sank. Just when he wanted to say something else, Jian Chen moved like lightning. Jian Chen suddenly appeared before the early overgod, and the startling lightning sword stabbed towards his forehead. As Jian Chen struck out, his entire presence underwent a drastic change. His presence surged as his entire body seemed to fuse with the sword. He controlled the laws of the sword just like a god of the sword. The early overgod's face changed drastically. He could feel Jian Chen's strike lock onto his presence. Every inch of space around him seemed to be filled with invisible sword chi, which actually made him feel like he could not dodge. In this moment of life and death, the early overgod made a rapid response. He used his demonic arts, and the demonic aura around him surged. He held a giant, 2-handed sword and suddenly cleaved it as it was wrapped up in black flames. However, how was he Jian Chen's opponent? When the 2 weapons collided, he experienced a terrifying power that he could not resist, and it directly knocked his huge sword out of his hands. The deputy vomited blood. His face was pale, and he felt extremely shocked inside. He had become heavily injured from that single attack. Late overgod, the deputy cried out. He also knew that this person was far beyond a regular late overgod. However, he was only able to cry out that. When he finished speaking, Jian Chen's second strike flew over with lightning speed. The simple stab seemed to be filled with the unpredictable mysteries of laws such that his attack seemed to possess a sliver of the might of heaven. Spurt. The early overgod was unable to avoid the second strike. The startling rainbow sword pierced his head and wiped out his soul. Chapter 1865, Slaying 3 overgods with the sword. 3. Lu Shan and the other early overgod had yet to return to their senses even when Jian Chen had claimed the life of the deputy by piercing a hole through his forehead. It was not just the 2 of them. Even the countless people in the city below and all the people from the Ling family were stunned. Their eyes had widened drastically as disbelief filled their faces. He was fast. Simply too fast. From when Jian Chen first struck out till he killed the early overgod, the time that had passed was just far too little. It was so short that many people found it to be unbelievable. Overgods, even early overgods, were indomitable existences to the people within the provincial city, as the strongest around were only gods. As long as a clan possessed an overgod, the clan would be able to rise up to become one of the peak clans within a divine kingdom. However, just now, 2 strikes had claimed the life of an indomitable existence in their eyes. It had taken less than a few seconds or even just a second at most. Jian Chen claiming the life of an early overgod in a single second had deeply shocked everyone. How dare you kill an overgod of the Empyrean demon cult? Our Empyrean demon cult will never let you go. Lu Shan and the other deputy were shocked. They stared at Jian Chen in surprise as they tried to appear tough. Jian Chen had struck out suddenly and extremely quickly. He did not give them any time to interfere and save the person. Moreover, Jian Chen's strength had surprised them. He was so powerful that even among late overgods, he ranked towards the very top. Jian Chen had indeed benefited greatly from his visit to the royal collection. The scroll with the notes on cultivation and comprehension left behind by a god king at the very least had allowed him to benefit a lot. He had gained some further understanding, allowing his laws of the sword to increase slightly once again. Of course, this was nowhere near enough for him to break through to the major achievement of sword spirit. He was still at the partial achievement of sword spirit. However, the increase to Jian Chen's battle prowess was evident. Jian Chen did not stop there. He drew out the startling rainbow sword and charged towards Lu Shan. He churned with sword qi and was unstoppable. Lu Shan became extremely stern. With a thought, he suddenly withdrew the black net over the sword-seeking province, forming a black rope in a split second. It burned with black, demonic flames, and as Lu Shan's arm danced, it struck out as a streak of black light. At the same time, the other early overgod also struck out. A black spike had appeared in his hand. It was also covered with black, demonic flames as he used a truth-tier battle skill without any hesitation. The black spike instantly expanded to several meters in length. It gave off the powerful energy ripples of an overgod. The deputy controlled the spike and stabbed it towards Jian Chen as hard as he could. It caused a shocking disturbance. However, even when Lu Shan and the deputy worked together, they were still not Jian Chen's opponent. The difference in strength was just far too great. Jian Chen cut the black rope controlled by Lu Shan with a single stroke, incapacitating his medium-quality saint artifact. Meanwhile, a mist of blood spurted from Lu Shan's mouth. With his second attack, Jian Chen stabbed at the other deputy with lightning speed, attempting to directly fend off the battle skill with a regular attack. Boom! The deputy's battle skill collapsed under Jian Chen's sword. A deep gash had even appeared on his spike that was also a medium-quality saint artifact like the black rope due to the startling rainbow sword. In fact, it was almost cut in half completely. Spurt. The early overgod also vomited blood. His face became extremely pale at that moment. Facing off against Jian Chen, who had basically reached peak overgod in an open confrontation with his strength, was like attacking a rock with an egg. Lu Shan and the deputy were greatly shocked. They glanced in shock at the cold Jian Chen, who was brimming with killing intent, and they made the same decision without any discussion. They immediately took out teleportation formation discs from their space rings and tried to activate it as soon as possible. A fierce light shone through Jian Chen's eyes when he saw that the two people wanted to flee. He snorted coldly, "Running won't be that easy." As he said that, the startling rainbow sword exploded with light. At that moment, the sword suddenly seemed to gain a mind of its own. It actually flew out of Jian Chen's hand automatically and stabbed at the deputy with great speed. Daluo sword. At the same time, Jian Chen bellowed out. He formed a seal with his right hand, and a golden sword qi condensed above his head instantly. As a golden streak of light, it shot towards Lu Shan like lightning. Jian Chen controlled his sword with his soul. The streak of white light that the startling rainbow sword had transformed into pierced through the deputy's forehead before he could completely activate the teleportation formation, instantaneously wiping out his soul. Lu Shan was not an exception either. Even though he had activated his formation disc extremely quickly, Jian Chen's Daluo sword was even faster. Lu Shan had failed to activate the formation disc completely before the golden sword qi had landed on his head. Under the rampaging sword qi, his head was directly reduced to dust in the air. At the same time, his soul failed to escape. All three overgods from the Empyrean demon cult had died. None of them managed to escape. Countless people in the provincial city below raised their heads at the sky. They were utterly stunned. There were even many people who had become extremely pale. They had paled in fright from the great shock. In just a few short seconds, they witnessed someone kill three powerful overgods with lightning speed. Many people even found this to be unreal. It was like they were dreaming. The shock they experienced was greater than anything they had seen in their life. Many people even began to think of the same thing. Overgods were actually so puny. Jian Chen stowed the startling rainbow sword away. His expression remained the same as before. He glanced down at the provincial city before stopping his gaze on the patriarch of the Ling family. He said, the Empyrean demon cult probably won't just let this matter be. It's best if your Ling family is prepared to move for the sake of the clan's survival. The entire Ling family looked at Jian Chen in admiration and great gratitude. Ling Mojian even bowed towards Jian Chen deeply with the rest of his clansmen. He said, our Ling family will never forget Senior's great kindness. We will consider moving seriously. After all, this matter is just too significant. We cannot make a decision on the whim. Ling Mojian did not dare to mention Jian Chen's name. He was worried that too many people would learn of Jian Chen's name, and the Empyrean demon cult would learn about it too as a result, which would lead to trouble for the Tian Yuan clan. However, he knew that it was impossible to keep this matter a secret for too long. If the Empyrean demon cult really wanted to look into it, finding the person responsible would be a piece of cake. However, the later they learnt that it was the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, Jian Chen, who did all this, the better it would be. Jian Chen did not say much. He removed the space rings from the three overgods and did not even look inside before directly leaving the province. After Jian Chen's departure, Ling Mojian stared at the elders by his side sternly. He communicated with them secretly, warning them to never disclose that it was Jian Chen who killed the three overgods. The nearby divine kingdoms already knew that there was only the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan aside from Ling Hogong who had comprehended the laws of the sword. They could find out who claimed the lives of the three overgods without even guessing, so Ling Mojian's cautiousness was basically unneeded. However, he still chose to do that. Chapter 1866, Preparations. News of the deaths of the three overgods from the Empyrean demon cult who had surrounded the sword-seeking province spread like wildfire. It spread across the entire divine kingdom of Ping Tian in the shortest time possible, immediately throwing the kingdom into an uproar. All the overgod clans were extremely shocked. They guessed at who it was that was bold enough to even kill people from the Empyrean demon cult. Moreover, the person in question had killed three overgods. Even to a great organization like the Empyrean demon cult, overgods were not nobodies. They possessed some status. Not only had the deaths of the three overgods become a hot topic in the divine kingdom of Ping Tian, but it even spread to the nearby divine kingdoms in an extremely short amount of time. Anyone who heard about it became stunned. They admired the courage of the person and was amazed by their strength. The person had actually killed three overgods in such a short amount of time. Even many late overgods would not be able to do something like that. Killing three overgods in just a few moments in a situation where one of them is even a mid-overgod. Is that person a god king? It's only a rumor. Maybe the three overgods from the Empyrean demon cult really were killed by a single person, but it definitely shouldn't be as exaggerated as the rumors, where they say the person finished the battle in just a few seconds. It probably just got exaggerated as the rumors spread. Discussions appeared in various places. Over 90% of the people basically believed it to be an exaggeration, while the remainders all had their doubts about the matter. Jian Chen has actually become so powerful. It's unbelievable. Commander Xian Dou of the Royal Divine Army stood in the study room of his estate as he sighed in amazement. He could not help but think back to the first time he met Jian Chen. Back then, he had personally witnessed Jian Chen defeat Weiner Yan. He was only around a mid-overgod in terms of strength at the time. Only a few dozen years had passed till the next time Xian Dou saw him, but Jian Chen already possessed the strength to fight Yang Kai at that time. His strength had increased at an alarming rate. Yet now, Jian Chen actually managed to kill three overgods from the Empyrean demon cult in such a short amount of time. Compared to when he fought Yang Kai, he was even stronger now. Is Jian Chen's strength growing at all times? At this rate, he'll become a god king before long. Xian Dou sighed emotionally. He did not listen to the rumors. Instead, he had people planted outside the sword-seeking province who knew the situation at all times. As a result, even though he could not say he knew everything that had happened in the sword-seeking province, he basically knew what had happened. Never, ever provoke the Tian Yuan clan from today onwards. At the same time, all the ancestor of the over-god clans in the divine kingdom of Ping Tian sent down stern orders. They feared Jian Chen very much. In the Yang family, the ancestor, Yang Kai, was still heavily injured from his battle with Jian Chen. He did not have Jian Chen's regeneration, so even after consuming healing pills, he would still need some time to achieve a full recovery. When Yang Kai, who was in his secret room, heard that Jian Chen had killed 3 over-gods from the Empyrean demon cult, he immediately sneered. He said softly, "How can you just kill people from the Empyrean demon cult like that, let alone 3 over-gods? The Empyrean demon cult will never just let the matter be. Moreover, this matter should be somewhat related to a vice leader of the Empyrean demon cult. Jian Chen, you've bitten off more than you can chew now. Even dying will become difficult for you." Yang Kai took pleasure in Jian Chen's misfortune. Jian Chen returned to the Tian Yuan clan in the Dong'an province. Currently, a barrier and formation surrounded the discussion hall of the Tian Yuan clan. Not only did it cut off any noises in the hall from the outside world, but it also stopped the entry of any senses of the soul. Jian Chen sat on the patriarch's throne very casually in his white, luxurious robes. Below him sat 2 rows of people. There were over 20 of them, and they were of various ages. The youngest only seemed to be 14 or 15 years old, while the oldest already had gray hair and hunched backs. These people were the higher powers of the Tian Yuan clan. All of them were gods. Among them, the youngest was a white-robed young man. His face was cold, and his eyes shone brightly. He gave off a faint presence of slaughter. Even though he was still slightly baby-faced, many people cast fearful gazes towards him as he sat there with a straight back. In the years that Jian Chen had been away, the Tian Yuan clan had rapidly powered up. Many gods had joined the clan, taking up positions as elders. That was why there were so many gods in the Tian Yuan clan now. Jian Chen glanced down before stopping on the young man who only seemed to be 14 or 15. He could not help but smile as if he was relieved. This was because the white-robed young man was the white tiger. He had become a god now. Even though he was only an early god, even a few mid-gods seated there feared him. Aside from that, Xiu, Mo Ling, Ando Fu, and the gods from the Nanyun clan, which was originally one of 3 great clans of the Dong'an province, were seated there as well. The Nanyun clan had completely become a part of the Tian Yuan clan now. Originally, they only joined in hopes of getting the support of an over-god so that they would have someone they could rely on. However, in the years they spent with the Tian Yuan clan, they had benefited greatly. All the cultivation methods they used were over-god cultivation methods left behind by Jian Chen. I believe you've all heard about the deaths of the 3 over-gods from the Empyrean demon cult. From today onwards, the Tian Yuan clan will probably lose its peace. I've gathered you all here today to give you a choice. Whether you want to leave or stay is completely up to you. I won't stop you if you want to leave, Jian Chen said sternly. A few of the seated elders hesitated. In the end, some of them chose to leave and break off from the Tian Yuan clan. Actually, most of the elders chose to leave. However, Nanyun Tong and the others chose to stay without any hesitation at all. They held great hopes for Jian Chen. They knew that Jian Chen had a way to overcome this threat. Moreover, the Tian Yuan clan had always treated them as one of their own. They gradually developed a sense of belonging in the Tian Yuan clan. Now that the clan was in danger, it was time for them to express their loyalty. Mo Ling and Ando Fu chose to stay without any hesitation either. The 2 of them were probably even closer to the clan than Jian Chen. This was because Jian Chen almost never managed the affairs of the clan. Every single brick in the clan had basically been laid under their orders. To them, this was equivalent to a new home. Jian Chen's face did not change when he saw that only 10 gods remained aside from the white tiger. He said, "All right. Since you don't plan on leaving and are willing to die with the Tian Yuan clan, I guarantee that if we successfully overcome this disaster, I will never mistreat you in the future. Shiyu, how are the materials that you've collected?" Jian Chen looked at Shiyu. Shiyu took out a space ring and gave it to Jian Chen. She said, "Patriarch, I've already collected all the materials we can gather right now from the elders. They're all in that space ring. Moreover, I've sent some people to other provincial cities to collect the required materials. I believe a second batch will come soon." Jian Chen took the materials and immediately entered seclusion. Chapter 1867, Lurking Enemies. Jian Chen sat in a room within the forbidden grounds of the Tian Yuan clan. He took out various materials from his space ring as he channeled the chaotic force in his dantian. He burnt it as chaotic flames to refine the materials successively. The materials that Jian Chen had asked Shiyu to collect were all for creating teleportation formations. The Divine King had said that there was no need to fear the Empyrean demon cult. Even if they en masse to deal with the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian, the people from the empires would step forward to stop them. However, Jian Chen did not know whether what he said was reliable. Moreover, even if the Divine King was telling the truth, he could not place all his hopes on those distant empires. He needed to have a path of escape, so the Tian Yuan clan could avoid the devastating attacks of the Empyrean demon cult. Right now, there's a perfect method of retreat presented before me, and that's teleportation formations. I need to cast down teleportation formations in the shortest time possible. If the Empyrean demon cult comes, everyone can leave through the teleportation formation, Jian Chen thought. Several materials hovered before him. Chaotic flames burnt on his hands as he refined the materials for the teleportation formation with all his attention. Fortunately, he did not have to cast a teleportation that could cross worlds, planes or regions. He only needed a teleportation formation that could take people across to another divine kingdom, so it did not have to be high quality. As a result, there was not a great requirement for his mastery over teleportation formations. With Jian Chen's current grasp and familiarity over teleportation formations, he believed he would be able to cast down teleportation formations that could cross divine kingdoms without long. Naturally, there was not a great requirement on the materials to cast down a teleportation formation like that either. As a result, he had 100 sets of materials for teleportation formations. Every set was enough to cast a single teleportation formation. 3 days later, Jian Chen refined all the sets of materials for the teleportation formations. He did not stop there. He immediately began to attempt to create teleportation formations in the room. Boom! 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 In the following period of time, Jian Chen's room constantly rumbled. These were failed teleportation formations. The energy within the formation had lost control, hence causing an explosion. Although the information in the memory pearl had allowed Jian Chen's knowledge and grasp over teleportation formations to reach a whole new level, he was still a little off from creating it perfectly. Jian Chen needed to overcome this through learning from his mistakes. I haven't used enough sealing stone, the crucial points of the formation have been placed down incorrectly. This time, the formation's been activated too quickly, such that the teleportation energy became violent. It caused the entire formation to collapse. Jian Chen had already become disheveled inside the room. However, he persistently cast down teleportation formations without minding at all, ignoring any exhaustion. He was learning from his mistakes. Every time he failed, Jian Chen would deepen his understanding of teleportation formations. Jian Chen would gain extremely valuable experience as well. Gradually, Jian Chen's teleportation formations became closer to perfection and the number of times they exploded gradually lessened as well. Half a month later, when Jian Chen cast down the teleportation formation with the last set of materials on him, the gloomy room suddenly began to shine brightly. A powerful energy for teleportation filled the room. A formation with a radius of 5 meters appeared on the ground of the room. It was complicated and profound, giving off blinding light. It disturbed the space there, causing it to ripple with instability. Waves in space appeared. Success! Jian Chen's eyes shone with excitement. He had finally cast down a complete teleportation formation with the last set of materials. This was unlike the teleportation formations he had cast down on the Tianyuan continent. They were only markers so he could find his way back, like a beacon of light in the darkness so he would not get lost. However, the teleportation formation he had cast down right now could truly send people away. It could directly take them to another divine kingdom. Of course, Jian Chen needed to cast down a similar teleportation formation on the other end. However, he had now run out of materials. He needed to get more from Shiyu if he wanted to cast down a second teleportation formation. Jian Chen emerged from seclusion. When he made his way out, he discovered that Shiyu was already waiting outside. Aside from Shiyu, there were also the people who had come up to the Saint's World with Jian Chen. Houston, the White Tiger, Shangguan Mu'er, Xiao Jin, Xiao Ling, Rui Jin, He Yu, Hong Lian, Nubis and Xiongzhong, Qing Jingyun and the others from the world of Forsaken Saints were all gathered there. Uncle Xiao, you've actually become a god. Houston looked like he was in his 70s, but his face was ruddy and brimming with energy. His hair was no longer snowy white. His hair which he allowed to hang loose had already become scarlet red. Coupled with his blood-red robes, he seemed to possess a demonic presence. Jian Chen was not surprised by the demonic aura on Houston. This was because he had personally given the Empyrean demon orb to Houston. Houston practiced the demonic arts from there, so he possessed a demonic presence. However, what he felt extremely shocked about was that Houston progressed just too quickly. It could be described as extraordinary. This was because Houston had not even reached godhood when he had first come to the Saints' World. In less than 100 years, he had already become a god. If the news made it out, it would be rather unbelievable. It's all because of what you gave me. The reason why I can advance so quickly is all because of it, Houston sighed emotionally. Only he understood just how precious the Empyrean demon orb Jian Chen had given him was. It was basically a treasure that changed his life completely. Whenever he cultivated, the Empyrean demon orb would invite the mysteries of the laws and personally pass it on to Houston. As a result, Houston's comprehension of laws progressed at an alarming rate. Mu'er, you're actually a late god. Jian Chen looked at the purple-dressed, beautiful Shangguan Mu'er and was surprised once again. However, Jian Chen understood very soon. Shangguan Mu'er was the mother of someone who possessed the innate chaotic body. She was blessed by the world, so her cultivation naturally would be extremely smooth. If she managed to survive, she would definitely become a great expert that was equivalent to immortal emperors. Jian Chen studied every single one of them and discovered only the White Tiger, Houston and Shangguan Mu'er managed to become gods. Everyone else from the Tianyuan continent had become deities. Only Xiongzhong and Qing Jingyun from the world of Forsaken Saints managed to reach early godhood. The other people were still at returnants. Patriarch, this is all the materials we've managed to collect so far. At this moment, Shiyu passed the space ring in her hand to Jian Chen. Her complexion was rather ugly. Jian Chen accepted the space ring and immediately frowned. Why is there so less? There's only a little more than 30 sets. Patriarch, we originally purchased for more than that, but some accidents happened to the people that we sent to collect the materials. Over 20 people had been killed along the way and all the materials were stolen. It's quite a loss. If it were not for Elder Houston and Elder Sacred Feather who managed to get some materials back, we probably would have even less right now, said Shiyu. A brutal light shone through Jian Chen's eyes when he heard that. Killing intent flickered and he growled, do you know who did it? Houston said, "We still don't know who they are. We only know that they've sent deities or even gods against us. Sacred Feather and I managed to capture 2 gods and a few deities before, but they were willing to self-destruct to avoid disclosing their identities." Who's Sacred Feather? Jian Chen could not help but wonder when he heard Sacred Feather, as he had never heard of the name before. "Brother, Sacred Feather's me." The White Tiger said, "Originally, my mother gave me a name, but I don't like it, so I gave myself a name recently." Jian Chen nodded with a smile. The White Tiger was extraordinary. Its bloodline was very powerful. It could directly break through to the origin realm even when the lower world was sealed up, so he probably possessed a great background. The word sacred was indeed suitable for him. Moreover, he possessed a pair of feathered wings, so the feather part was extremely suitable as well. However, Jian Chen did not know that the White Tiger was not actually a winged tiger god. The winged tiger god was only a name created by people from the lower world. Its true identity was a sacred feathered tiger emperor which possessed an extremely powerful bloodline. Clearly, the White Tiger had adopted the first word of its species for its name. Jian Chen said after some thought, "As long as they've reached godhood, whether they're deities or gods, they'll have some renown within the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Have you found any leads?" Shi Yu said, "We thought of that quite early on, so we already sent people to investigate. However, we still failed to find anything. It's as if people don't know about the existence of these godhood experts. Maybe they're not from the divine kingdom of Pingtian or any of the neighboring divine kingdoms." Shi Yu paused. She hesitated slightly before adding, "However, Nan Yuntong said that a few ancient over-god clans possess some hidden forces. As a result, we're guessing that the Gohood experts who attacked us are the hidden forces from a powerful clan. Is it the Yang family? Or is it the Mo family of the divine kingdom of Qingyang?" Jian Chen said softly as the light in his eyes flickered with uncertainty. The only over-god clans he had fallen out with were the Wainer clan, Yang family and Mo family. Jian Chen directly ignored the Wainer clan, because they just did not possess something like that. Only the Mo family and Yang family were left. Of course, he had to consider the possibility of other organizations trying to create confusion. Chapter 1868, Shen Jian's Return. You have to be careful these days. It's best if you don't get any clansmen to leave the Dong'an province. The current Tian Yuan clan is facing many troubles. A few organizations have probably decided to target us because they think we won't have any extra energy to deal with them. As a result, they're purposefully causing some problems for us, Jian Chen said coldly. His gaze was extremely sharp. The people of the Tian Yuan clan were being ambushed when they were collecting the materials. The matter had aggravated his killing intent. This was because the importance of the teleportation formation materials was evident to the Tian Yuan clan. It was directly related to the clan's survival. Shangguan Mu'er, Houston, Sacred Feather, and the others were all extremely stern. After they learned about the Empyrean demon cult's power, they all realized just how great of a threat the Tian Yuan clan was facing. Suddenly, Jian Chen's face changed. A sliver of joy appeared, and he said, "A friend has returned. Everyone, come with me to receive him." Jian Chen led everyone from the Tian Yuan continent out of the forbidden grounds and directly to the main entrance of the clan. A middle-aged man stood outside. He appeared to be in his 40s. His black hair was draped on his shoulders, directly extending to his waist. His appearance was nothing special at all. He was the type that would not raise any attention if he was left in a crowd. He wore a set of simple, black robes and carried a simple, black sword on his back. Spirit King. The Spirit King has returned. When Xiongzhong and the others saw the middle-aged man, they were immediately overjoyed. Excitement flooded their faces. The middle-aged man was Shen Jian, who had left several decades ago. Shen Jian, you sure have chosen a bad time to return, Jian Chen smiled as he looked at Shen Jian. However, his smile was not joyful but bitter. However, he could already tell that Shen Jian was now an over-god. Shen Jian stared back at Jian Chen. His plain gaze carried a hint of sharpness like that of a sword. I didn't plan on returning so soon originally, but you killed 3 over-gods from the Empyrean demon cult, so I had to return, Shen Jian said calmly without any expression on his face. However, when he glanced past Xiongzhong and the 3 others, he nodded slightly. Jian Chen laughed aloud, all right. Since you're diving head first into the problem, let's struggle with them together. Let's go. We'll talk after we go in. In a secret room within the Tian Yuan clan, Jian Chen and Shen Jian sat facing each other. There was only the 2 of them in the room. The Empyrean demon cult is powerful. Now that you've killed 3 of their over-gods, they'll never just let the matter slide. How do you plan on dealing with them? Shen Jian skipped the small talk and asked directly. Isn't my only choice to deal with it as they come? If I really can't do anything about it, we can only retreat. We'll move everyone away using the teleportation formations in the clan, said Jian Chen. He did not hide anything from Shen Jian, telling him all of his plans. At the same time, he told everything he had learnt from the Divine King to Shen Jian. Shen Jian said after some thought, the problem is whether the Divine King's words are reliable or not. If it really is as the Divine King has said, that the people from the Empire will interfere once the Empyrean demon cult invades the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian, we don't have to worry too much. Regardless of the truth behind the Divine King's words, we can't place our hopes on other people, said Jian Chen. He stared at Shen Jian brightly and said sternly, I've already cast down the teleportation formation in the clan. However, I need to set up a formation on the other end. That way, we'll be able to choose a safe place to teleport to. Originally, I was worried that someone would attack the Tian Yuan clan after I left. I don't have to worry at all now that you're here. Shen Jian nodded. He said, go without worry. Leave here to me. However, activating the formation needs energy. There are so many people in the clan, so if you want to send them all away, you'll need quite a few divine crystals, said Jian Chen. He immediately took out the space rings he had obtained from the 3 over-gods. After searching through them, he discovered that there were close to 20 blocks of high-grade divine crystal in the space rings. Moreover, there were a few loose mid-grade divine crystals. Keep the divine crystals with you. If the people of the Empyrean demon cult come, use the divine crystals to support the teleportation formation's operation. Jian Chen gave Shen Jian half of the divine crystals before leaving the room. Afterwards, Jian Chen found Shangguan Mu'er and the others. He left all his other divine crystals with them before silently leaving the clan. He looked for a place to retreat to. The divine kingdom of Pingtian borders the divine kingdom of Qingyang. Past the divine kingdom of Qingyang is the divine kingdom of Datian. Past there in the huge mountain range is the territory of the Heavenly Moon Empire. Jian Chen flew as quickly as he could among the clouds as he thought about the path of retreat. With the power of the Empyrean demon cult, it'll be completely useless whether we retreat to the divine kingdom of Qingyang or the divine kingdom of Datian. Looks like only the Heavenly Moon Empire can make the Empyrean demon cult experience some fear. I'll go to the Heavenly Moon Empire. Jian Chen immediately used the linear lightning release after making up his mind. He turned into lightning and hurried off. Before long, Jian Chen left the divine kingdom of Pingtian and arrived at the divine kingdom of Qingyang. He chose a desolate mountain and cast down a transfer teleportation formation in an obscure cave before continuing onwards. Ancestor of the Mo family, I'll be able to take back what's mine very soon. Jian Chen stared in the direction of the Mo family from afar, and a sliver of killing intent flickered through his eyes. Afterwards, he turned into a streak of light and hurried to the divine kingdom of Datian. Under Jian Chen's full speed, he passed through the divine kingdom of Qingyang. He made his way around the foot of the Yin Mountains of Seven's Despair and entered the divine kingdom of Datian. He found an obscure location to cast down another teleportation formation before hurrying off to the Heavenly Moon Empire without stopping at all. There were a few obstacles along the way. He encountered the attack of several vicious beasts and also dove straight into a few formations cast down by bandits. Some of the bandits had even reached late God. However, with Jian Chen's current strength, these obstacles were nothing. He dealt with them just by raising his hand. However, if he were a god instead, he probably would have died several times already. In the end, Jian Chen entered the Heavenly Moon Empire after leaving the Tian Yuan clan for 10 days. He did not enter any cities and instead cast down the final teleportation formation in a remote mountain range just like before. Jian Chen finally let out a sigh of relief after casting down the final teleportation formation. The path of retreat for the Tian Yuan clan had finally been completed. The Heavenly Moon Empire really is extremely distant from the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Even with my speed, I needed that much time for traveling. If a god wanted to travel this far, they'll probably need several years. Now, it's time for me to pay a visit to the Mo family, thought Jian Chen before standing in the center of the teleportation formation. He activated it, and after a flash of intense white light, he vanished. Chapter 1869, The Ninth Army. After 2 teleportations, Jian Chen appeared within the divine kingdom of Qingyang. Only when the bright light from the teleportation beneath him completely vanished did he step out of it. He directly departed from the obscure cave that held the teleportation formation. Near the cave, Jian Chen seemed to become a cannonball at that moment. He directly shot into the sky to an altitude of 10,000 meters. He stood among the clouds. A map appeared in his hand. After locating the Mo family, he directly set off. The Tian Yuan clan faced the threat of the Empyrean demon cult. At such a time, Jian Chen needed to increase his strength as soon as possible. If he wanted to achieve a breakthrough with his chaotic body, the energy required would just be far too shocking. He had not found enough resources yet, so a breakthrough was unlikely. As for the laws of the sword, he managed to make some progress in the royal collection. However, he still would not be able to reach the major achievement of sword spirit in a short amount of time. The only remaining thing that could increase his strength was the damaged piece of armor. Even though the armor was heavily damaged, it was still a god artifact after all. If he wore it, it would increase his defenses, even if it was just slightly. A tremendous city stood on a scarlet ground, surrounded by layers of powerful formations in the distant divine kingdom of 3 cauldrons as Jian Chen made his way towards the Mo family. It gave off extremely powerful pulses of energy. Many armored soldiers stood on the walls, and there were a few people of various ages in luxurious robes among them. However, without any exception, all of them were haggard and exhausted. Droplets of blood covered their bodies. Some of them had even been completely covered in blood. It was impossible to tell whether it was their own blood or someone else's. This was the royal capital of the divine kingdom of 3 cauldrons as well as the only thing left standing in the divine kingdom. The royal capital had become heavily damaged over the years of battle. Even with the protection of powerful formations at the level of god kings, there were still huge cracks in various places. The ground around the royal capital had been dyed red by blood, which had formed streams across the battlefield. Countless corpses were piled like mountains as the heavy smell of blood lingered in the air. This was because the final forces of the divine kingdom of 3 cauldrons had engaged in an intense battle against the Ninth Army of the Empyrean demon cult 4 hours ago. They can't last much longer. 3 gleams of light hovered in the sky above the royal capital. They shone like the sun as they gave off tremendous presences. However, the presence clearly only seemed powerful on the surface. This was the greatest force that the divine kingdom of 3 cauldrons possessed, 3 god kings. There are no reinforcements. There's no more hope. Fate wants our divine kingdom of 3 cauldrons to fall. The Empyrean demon cult is filled with wild ambitions. Their methods have been bloody and brutal. They've already wiped out so many divine kingdoms across the years. Why haven't the empires stepped in yet? The 3 god kings hovered in the air and said softly. They were obscured by the blinding light around them, and laws of the world revolved around them too. As such, their figures became hazy and unclear. 10 kilometers before the 3 of them, black clouds hung in the gloomy sky. Demonic aura filled the surroundings. A group of soldiers in black armor stood there coldly. Even though there were not many of them, they pressured the divine kingdom of 3 cauldrons to the point of suffocation. They were the 9th army of the Empyrean demon cult. Even though the 9th army was only composed of 100,000 people, these same 100,000 people were enough to obliterate the huge armies of any divine kingdom. The commander of the 9th army, Yan Wuming, hovered in the air before his army. He also wore armor as his cape fluttered wildly in the wind. Divine kingdom of 3 cauldrons, we've already found the way to destroy your formations. I'll kill you all in a single stroke with the next attack. Let's go, Yan Wuming sneered as he gave off a demonic aura. He remained composed when he faced the 3 god kings. He did not treat them with any importance at all. The 9th army retreated before setting up a base 100 kilometers away. Yan Wuming summoned some of his generals into his tent to discuss the battle. Suddenly, an illusionary figure of an extremely handsome young man in white robes appeared in the tent. Yan Wuming, it has been so many days already. Have you captured the person called Ling Hogong? As soon as the young man appeared, he stared at Yan Wuming as if he was judging him. His voice was cold. Yan Wuming's face sank. He slammed his desk and called out rudely, "Protector Zheng, since when did I report to you? Who do you think you are? Do you believe that I'll disperse your soul projection with a single smack for talking to me like that?" The young man sneered, "Yan Wuming, you clearly don't have to report to me, but there's something I should tell you. Stop dragging things on like a woman. If you have something to say, spit it out. Once you are done, get out of my territory." Yan Wuming was extremely short-tempered. The over-god generals in the tent all shied backwards. They did not dare to make any noise between Yan Wuming and Protector Zheng's argument. Vice Leader Hua An has already emerged from seclusion. He's already looking into this himself. Yan Wuming, don't blame me for not warning you. If you don't handle the matter well, you'll be in deep trouble if the vice leader wants to blame someone. Throwing that down with a sneer, Protector Zheng vanished. Yan Wuming suddenly became stern after Protector Zheng left. He glanced below and said rudely, "Lu Shan has gone for so long. Why hasn't he returned yet? Can't he even deal with a mere early overgod?" The generals below all looked at each other. In the past few days, their 9th army had always been engaged with the divine kingdom of 3 cauldrons. Naturally, they did not receive the news of Lu Shan and his deputies' deaths. Report. Suddenly, a messenger ran in. He dropped to one knee and said politely, "Commander, I've just received news that General Lu Shan and his 2 deputies were slain by Jian Chen in the divine kingdom of Pingtian." What? Lu Shan is dead? How dare he? Yan Wuming stood up. His presence churned as killing intent rose up. He said coldly, "Who's Jian Chen? How dare he kill a person of mine?" "Commander, this is all the information on Jian Chen." The messenger passed a jade slip to Yan Wuming. After reading through everything in the jade slip, he frowned. He growled, "This Jian Chen really is somewhat capable. It's extremely likely that he has the support of a primordial realm expert and has connections with a great clan of unknown power. No wonder he's bold enough to stand up against us. But, so what? Our Empyrean demon cult won't fear him no matter how great his background is. I need to take his life for killing a person of mine." Suddenly, Yan Wuming stared at all the gathered generals. He said, "Is there any late-over god willing to go to the divine kingdom of Ping Tian and bring me the heads of Jian Chen and Ling Hogong?" The group of generals looked at each other. No one spoke out to accept the mission. A while later, an over-god stood up and said, "Commander, we've reached a crucial moment in attacking the divine kingdom of Three Cauldrons. If we send a late-over god to the divine kingdom of Ping Tian at such a time, it'll definitely make the battle longer and decrease the might of our army. If the divine kingdom of Three Cauldrons makes a final struggle at a time like this and attacks our army, we'll suffer heavy losses. And, I am guessing that since the person called Jian Chen was bold enough to kill our people, he might have the support of the royal family in the divine kingdom of Ping Tian. If he really does have their support, sending one or two late-over gods would be equivalent to sending them to their deaths. In my opinion, why don't we defeat the divine kingdom of Three Cauldrons first and then advance to the divine kingdom of Ping Tian?" Yan Wuming lowered his head and pondered for a while before saying, "All right. In 7 days, we will lead a full assault on the divine kingdom of Three Cauldrons. Once we've dealt with them, we'll immediately attack the divine kingdom of Ping Tian." Chapter 1870, Orders of the Grand Elder. Yes, sir. All the generals gathered in Yan Wuming's tent accepted the orders. Excitement filled their eyes as their battle intent surged. They liked to fight very much. "Divine Kingdom of Three Cauldrons, I'll give you 7 days to catch your breath. After those 7 days, I'd like to see just what else you have to repel my attacks." Yan Wuming sat on the commander's seat. Killing intent and bloodthirstiness flickered through his eyes. "After we wipe out the divine kingdom of Three Cauldrons, I'll personally visit the divine kingdom of Ping Tian. I can't just let this matter slide now that my people have died in the divine kingdom of Ping Tian." On the tremendous southern region of the Cloud Plain, there were some plains far away from the divine kingdom of Three Cauldrons where the skies were always black. The Scarlet Land would never see any sun, and it was lifelessly barren. It was filled with a deathly silence as far as the eye could see. A majestic castle stood in the depths of the land that never saw light. The castle was extremely large. It was dark red as if it had been doused with blood. Even from a distance, there was a heavy smell of blood. The smell of death seemed to permeate the surroundings. This castle was the headquarters of the Empyrean demon cult's Cloud Plain branch. Even though the surroundings of the castle were barren, without any guards whatsoever, no one dared to approach where it stood. Even experts as powerful as god-kings would not dare to stand within 1,000 kilometers of the castle. Even people who had surpassed god-kings like primordial realm experts that only existed in legends to most people in the saints' world did not dare to stand within 100 kilometers of the castle. Even to primordial realm experts, a range of 100 kilometers from the castle was a forbidden zone that they could never set foot in. At this moment, 3 people who were wrapped up in powerful demonic auras were on the highest floor of the castle. Only their figures were vaguely visible as they sat in the air. The demonic aura the 3 of them gave off was enough to shake the world. Their presences were so terrifying that even the expressions of god-kings would change. It was as if any single one of them possessed a devastatingly terrifying power within their bodies. "Huayan, you've finally emerged from seclusion. You've been in seclusion for so long. Looking at your condition, you've made a full recovery," said one of the 3 people surrounded by demonic aura. He spoke calmly, without any emotion at all. It was not difficult to tell from the ancient voice that he was an old man. "Ha ha ha, you're a mighty infinite prime, yet you became so heavily injured by a mere god-king. It took you so long in seclusion to make a full recovery." "Huayan, just that is enough for your name to leave a mark in history," said the second figure surrounded by demonic aura. Her voice was crisp and pleasant. She was female, and her voice was filled with mockery. "Humph, Huaiwe, you probably won't even be able to do what I did if you fought against Duanmu. You might have even been slain by him," said the third figure covered by demonic aura. There was an evident sliver of annoyance in his words. Huayue giggled. Huayan, do you think that I'm an idiot? You struggled so much even against a god king. If I were fighting instead, would have killed Duanmu with a flip of my hand. You think you can deal with Duanmu with your little tricks? Huayan sneered. His voice was filled with disdain, and he said, Duanmu did not make it onto the God King's throne, but that was only because he was unwilling. He's powerful enough to make it into the top 100 ranks. Huayue, it's not that I'm looking down on you, but with your strength, who knows who would be the one who ends up dead if you fought him. The God King's throne recorded the most powerful, current God Kings in the Saints' world. Their strength was ranked among each other, and without a doubt, every single expert who could make it onto the throne, regardless of ranking, was an extremely powerful existence. Any single one of them could claim that they were supreme among God Kings. They were all famous. Legend had it that the top 100 God Kings possessed the power to take on primordial realm experts. Of course, these primordial realm experts were naturally the weaker kind. As for the people who ranked within the top 10, they would even have the supreme strength to kill primordial realm experts directly. I heard as soon as I emerged that Duanmu, that kiddo, has a successor now. Huayan, since you exaggerate Duanmu to be so powerful, I'll warn you out of good intentions. Don't end up dying in the hands of Duanmu's successor after surviving Duanmu, Huayue giggled. Enough. Stop bickering, an ancient voice rang out. The old man shrouded in demonic aura said, Huayue, Huayan, you must have received the Grand Elder's orders. As soon as he mentioned the Grand Elder, Huayue and Huayan immediately fell silent. The Grand Elder has ordered us to quicken our pace in collecting soul energy. Looks like we need to send out all 9 armies, Huayan said gruffly. If we do that, we'll definitely raise the attention of all the powerful organizations on the Cloud Plane. Those empires won't just stand by either. They'll definitely try to stop us, Huayue said sternly. Since the order comes from the Grand Elder, it must be the Great Elder's intentions as well. There's no need for us to fear. We just need to carry out the orders. Pass down orders to mobilize the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th armies. They will split off in 3 directions. Pass down orders for all protectors in the headquarters to emerge from seclusion and wait for further orders. The Divine Kingdom of Qingyang possessed similar strength to the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian. They also possessed 2 God Kings, but the Divine Kingdom had been around for much longer than the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian. The Divine Kingdom of Pingtian had only been founded for several 100,000 years ago, while the Divine Kingdom of Qingyang had already been around for over 1,000,000 years. The Divine Kingdom of Qingyang copied the 49 Great Plains and the 81 Great Planets of the Saints' world, so they divided their territory into 49 provinces and 81 major cities in hopes of borrowing the fortune of the Saints' world to keep on existing. The Blue River Province was one of the 49 provinces of the Divine Kingdom of Qingyang. At the same time, it possessed 5 provincial cities. The 5 provincial cities were similar to the 6 great provinces of the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian. They were all places that possessed over-gods. The Blue River Province basically belonged to the Mo family. They were the absolute rulers there. Suddenly, an extremely powerful presence rolled out and engulfed the entire Blue River Province. At the same time, a resplendent sword chi shot over from the thick clouds with a dazzling glow. It disappeared into the province with lightning speed. Boom! A deafening sound immediately rang out from the provincial city of the Blue River Province. The entire city shook violently. The protective formations of the city activated as soon as possible and engulfed the entire city. However, the formation shattered right after it appeared. Under the powerful energy ripples, countless buildings in the city collapsed, and thick cracks filled the streets. Ancestor of the Mo family, get your ass out here, a cold voice rang out in the sky, echoing through the provincial city. A white-robed young man stared at the city below him coldly. He directly emerged from the clouds, slowly descending from the air. To no surprise, he was Jian Chen. Chapter 1871, Powerful Armor. The sudden occurrence shocked all the people in the Blue River Province. At that moment, in the huge provincial city, everyone stopped what they were doing without any exceptions. They either stood in the streets or on the roofs of buildings as they raised their heads at the sky. They all stared at Jian Chen in complete shock and surprise. Who is this? He's asking for the ancestor of the Mo family as soon as he arrived. He's probably an enemy of the Mo family. The formation that protects the provincial city has already reached the level of overgods. Even if an overgod wants to smash through it, they'll need to exert some effort. However, the formation was shattered so easily before this senior. He's so powerful, he's an overgod. He must be an overgod and a powerful overgod at that. Heavens, I'm actually so close to an overgod. The stronger he is, the better it is. The Mo family has been acting as they wished within the province. Their wastrels always take women from the city. Who knows how many women they've dirted throughout these years. I hope the appearance of the senior will mean the destruction of the Mo family. Countless people discussed with each other in the provincial city. They all spoke very softly or directly used communication techniques. All the people in the Mo family had already gathered together. They stared at the sky sternly. Many of them were pale-faced, and their bodies were bloodied. Clearly, they were injured. Not only had the sword chi from before destroyed the protective formation of the Mo family, but its powerful ripples of energy had also injured many clansmen from the Mo family as well. Even the formation that protected the entire city had shattered loudly from the sword chi. The terrifying sword chi had left behind a permanent scar in the hearts of the Mo family. Many of them felt uneasy, and their gazes towards Jian Chen were filled with fear and shock. Jian Chen, you've finally come. I've waited for you for a very long time already. At this moment, an ancient voice rang out from the Mo family. It was calm and composed, no weaker than Jian Chen in terms of presence. A black-robed old man had appeared silently above the Mo family. He was calm. His black robes ruffled without wind as the powerful presence of a mid-overgod radiated from him without any hindrance. Apart from Jian Chen, no one saw when the old man had appeared. Ancestor of the Mo family, we originally had no connections at all, but you should have never, ever taken my things. Jian Chen stood with his arms across. He stared at the old man calmly and said, "Are you going to hand it over by yourself, or do I have to come and get it?" The ancestor of the Mo family laughed aloud. He said, "Jian Chen, I have indeed underestimated you. I never thought that your strength would grow to such a level. However, so what if you're more powerful? That doesn't mean you can defeat me. If you want this back, you're dreaming. It stopped being yours a long time ago. It's mine now. If you have the ability, come get it." The ancestor of the Mo family was extremely composed as if he was fearless. Even when he knew Jian Chen was now a late overgod, he showed no fear at all. "If that's the case, allow me to witness just what trump card you have hidden that makes you so confident." Jian Chen's eyes turned cold. The startling rainbow sword appeared in his hands in an instant. He directly stabbed it at the ancestor of the Mo family. The strike was as swift as the wind and fast like lightning. It illuminated the surroundings, instantly enveloping the ancestor of the Mo family. Sensing the terrifying power within Jian Chen's attack, the ancestor of the Mo family was no longer able to remain as calm and composed as before. He became extremely stern. In his eyes, Jian Chen's simple strike contained extremely profound laws and mysteries. His sword seemed to cut through the laws in the region in severe space, silencing everything in the world. Only the laws of the sword outshone everything. The attack had locked onto his presence, sealing off the space around him. As a result, he could not dodge at all. How has he become so powerful? Is he the reincarnation of some powerful person? The ancestor's heart sank. Originally, he thought that even if Jian Chen was a late over god, he could not be defeated with the protection of the god-tier armor. However, now that Jian Chen had really attacked him, he suddenly realized he had still underestimated Jian Chen. The ancestor of the Mo family bellowed out. His body immediately gave off a hazy, rainbow light. It was bedazzling. Armor appeared on his body. It covered him completely, only leaving his two eyes exposed. Boom! With a deafening sound, Jian Chen's startling rainbow sword struck the ancestor of the Mo family with devastating power right after he equipped the armor. The strike was extraordinarily great. It had completely reached the level of late over gods. With the ancestor's strength as a mid-over god, it was naturally impossible for him to fend it off. His body shot off into the distance like a cannonball. Several kilometers away, the ancestor of the Mo family managed to regain control of himself after great difficulty. He only felt his organs fall into turmoil as they had been shaken up badly. However, there were no wounds on him at all. The armor had completely blocked Jian Chen's attack. How is this possible? Jian Chen's eyes naturally saw the armor on the ancestor's body in the distance. His eyes narrowed drastically. He could naturally tell with a single glance that the armor was the same, damaged god artifact the ancestor had initially taken away from him. However, to his disbelief, the ancestor of the Mo family had actually managed to repair the damaged armor. Even though it was only the surface that had been repaired and not the whole thing, it was still enough to shock Jian Chen. It was a god artifact and of quite a high quality as well. It was so damaged that it was just about to become completely useless. Repairing it would naturally be extremely difficult. Even infinite primes might not have been able to repair it, let alone an over-god. Oh my god, the ancestor of the Mo family has been blown away from a single move. Is there something wrong with my eyes? This person is so powerful. It's said that the ancestor of the Mo family is a mid-over god, yet before him, he can't even take on a single strike. In the provincial city, the cultivators who saw Jian Chen blast the ancestor of the Mo family away with a single strike all gasped in amazement. Their faces were filled with shock as disbelief filled them internally. In their eyes, the ancestor of the Mo family was a supreme existence. He was the absolute ruler of the Blue River province. He was so powerful that even with the entire divine kingdom in perspective, he ranked within the top 10. He was an indomitable existence that they could only gaze at. However, the mighty ancestor of the Mo family was unable to take a single attack from Jian Chen. The huge difference shocked all the people in the provincial city. In the distance, the ancestor's covered face instantly became cold. Powerful killing intent flickered in his eyes as he thought, since Jian Chen knows the armor has been repaired, I have to kill him today. Otherwise, once he spreads the news, I probably won't be able to keep the armor. With that, the ancestor of the Mo family stopped hesitating. He turned around and fled into the distance. Jian Chen, I'm not going to tangle with you. With this, I'll be able to become a god king before long. Once I become a god king, I'll come to take your head and destroy your clan, the ancestor's voice rang out in the distance. He was purposefully instigating Jian Chen to come to pursue him. And you still want to become a god king? It's a pity that you won't have that chance, Jian Chen said coldly. His killing intent rose up as his presence surged. Chapter 1872, The Earth and Fire God-Slaying Formation. The ancestor of the Mo family fled as quickly as he could. He seemed frantic, but he was actually extremely composed. A vicious light flickered in his eyes along with heavy killing intent. Jian Chen pursued closely behind. His entire body seemed to become a huge streak of light. He moved extremely, far faster than the fleeing ancestor of the Mo family. The distance between the two was gradually getting closed. Come, come. I've already cast down an absolute killing formation in an obscure location. It cost me a huge price to cast it. Even if you're a late-over god, you'll struggle to break free once you get caught. Coupled with my attacks from outside, you're dead for sure, Jian Chen, the ancestor of the Mo family sneered. He was extremely excited. Once Jian Chen died, no one else would know he possessed a god artifact. He did not need to worry about the people from the Blue River province at all. After all, even some over-gods could not recognize god artifacts, let alone them. A powerful sword intent appeared from behind. It instantly enveloped the fleeing ancestor in light. Jian Chen had already caught up from behind. He swung his startling rainbow sword and erupted with powerful sword chi to kill the ancestor of the Mo family. Boom! Protected by the divine artifact, the ancestor of the Mo family was fearless. He did not try to dodge Jian Chen's attack at all. Instead, he used the might of his armor to endure it all. When the sword chi struck him, not only did he emerge unscathed, but the violent energy ripple even blasted him away instead, allowing him to fly forwards even faster. The ancestor of the Mo family's organs were in turmoil. They were shaken significantly. Jian Chen's attack was unable to destroy the god artifact, but whenever his attack landed on the armor, it possessed a great force as well. Clearly, the armor that only had its surface repaired was unable to redirect the force. As such, it directly passed through the armor and entered the ancestor's body. One of them fled while the other pursued. Very soon, they had crossed several million kilometers. They flew over many provincial cities and major cities, alarming countless people. The ancestor of the Mo family had already endured over a dozen attacks from Jian Chen. Each attack would shake up his organs. Even though he remained uninjured after all those attacks, it was still painful. In the end, the two of them arrived in a remote mountain range. Earth and Fire God-slaying formation. The ancestor of the Mo family stopped running. His hands formed seals as he suddenly bellowed out. Instantly, powerful ripples of energy erupted from countless mountains. A huge formation appeared, enveloping the entire mountain range. Endless flames spurted out from the ground and filled up the air. Jian Chen's world had already become fire-red. The terrifying heat filled the surroundings to the point where even the air seemed to be burning. There was an endless sea of fire beneath him while clouds of fire floated above him. Jian Chen, you're done for today. Ha ha ha, the ancestor of the Mo family's arrogant laughter rang out in the surroundings. Right now, he could already taste victory. Jian Chen hovered in the sky calmly. He stood as still as a mountain. The terrifying heat from the fire surged up, but it did not approach him. If this was a killing formation on the level of God Kings, I really would be done for today. It's a pity that this formation is only at the level of over-gods. Jian Chen shook his head gently. Indeed, it's very difficult to kill you with just this formation. However, what if you add me to the equation? I personally cast down this formation, so I know it like the back of my hand. I can move through it as I wish. I only need to find the right time to launch a sneak attack. Meanwhile, you won't be able to harm me at all. The ancestor of the Mo family's voice rang through the formation. It originated from everywhere, making it impossible to locate his hiding place. As he spoke, the formation suddenly began to operate. The world filled with flames shook violently. The sea of flames rose up as a huge pillar of fire surged from beneath the ground. It turned into a vicious beast that charged at Jian Chen. It kicked up flames along the way, and the terrifying heat caused the space to warp. These were terrifying flames that were enough to pose a huge threat to late over-gods. However, with Jian Chen's battle prowess, even among late over-gods, he ranked towards the top. The threat of the attack had lessened as a result. He stabbed out. The startling rainbow sword shone with resplendent light as he produced a huge sword chi several meters in length. It shot out with lightning speed. With a boom, the huge, beast-like flames directly collapsed from Jian Chen's sword chi. The clash between the two attacks caused powerful ripples of energy to erupt. It actually caused the entire formation space to shake violently. It was also at this moment that a black sword appeared silently behind Jian Chen before stabbing towards the back of Jian Chen's head with lightning speed. Jian Chen's face did not change. He sneered disdainfully. Without even looking back, he directly stabbed backwards within a hair's breadth of the sword. Ding! The two sword tips collided together with extremely great accuracy. They separated as soon as they came in contact with each other. The armored ancestor of the Mo family had appeared within the formation. However, the ancestor of the Mo family did not engage in an open confrontation with Jian Chen. He immediately retreated with his sword, disappearing back into the formation in the blink of an eye. Jian Chen appeared where the ancestor of the Mo family was before, basically at the moment that he vanished. He stabbed out a few times at the empty space. Powerful laws of the sword erupted, causing the entire space to shake. However, he failed to force out the ancestor of the Mo family. Jian Chen, I may not be able to beat you in an open battle, but killing you is nothing difficult with this killing formation. The formation will constantly attack you as long as it remains in operation. I'd like to see just how long you can last. The ancestor of the Mo family laughed aloud. Your formation is a little too weak, Jian Chen murmured to himself. Suddenly, his presence changed. An extremely powerful sword chi surged from him as endless powers of the laws of the sword appeared. It all gathered towards him. Daluo sword! Jian Chen called out. He formed a seal with his hand, and a golden sword chi condensed above his head. It shot out as a golden streak. Boom! The golden sword chi struck the formation with devastating might. With a great boom, the earth and fire god-slaying formation cast down by the ancestor of the Mo family shook even more violently. The ancestor of the Mo family took advantage of when Jian Chen struck out to sneak attack him. However, he was blocked again, and several strands of sword chi landed on the ancestor. However, with the protection of the armor, every single attack from Jian Chen was unable to injure him at all. It only shook up the ancestor quite a lot. Chapter 1873. The ancestor of the Mo family's death. Jian Chen ignored the ancestor of the Mo family and focused on smashing through the formation. He knew that it was very difficult to kill the ancestor of the Mo family without getting through the formation first. Golden sword chi constantly condensed above Jian Chen's head. Each strand possessed terrifying, devastating energy. In just a short moment, Jian Chen used the Daluo sword multiple times, causing the formation to tremble constantly. Before the fire attacks of the formation could approach Jian Chen, the Daluo sword easily dispersed them. Not only did Jian Chen use his great strength to suppress the formation, but he also handled the sneak attacks of the ancestor with great composure. Boom! 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 Deafening sounds exploded within the formation. Under Jian Chen's intense attacks, the condition of the powerful formation that could even trap late over gods clearly grew worse and worse. The formation space distorted drastically. Vaguely, strands of light appeared within the fire-red world. This was the light from the outside world. The terrifying might of Jian Chen's full-powered attacks had almost ripped open the formation space. He had achieved this despite the constant disruption from the ancestor of the Mo family. Otherwise, Jian Chen would have never taken this long to get through the formation with his current level of focus. The formation is almost destroyed? How is that possible? Although it's very difficult to kill late over gods with the formation alone, it can easily trap them for a few years. Coupled with me hiding out of sight and the attacks of the formation, killing late over gods should not be a problem at all. Not only does Jian Chen have to deal with attacks from the formation, but he also has to handle my constant sneak attacks. His hands should be completely full. How can he still have the extra strength to destroy the formation? Jian Chen was clearly only an early over-god before, and his cultivation level remained at the level of gods. It has only been a few decades, so how has he become so powerful? The ancestor of the Mo family was extremely shocked. He even experienced disbelief. He struggled to believe that a person's strength could increase so quickly, where he would make such great progress in just a few short decades. After all, it had taken him over 100,000 years to go from early over-god to mid-over-god. No, Jian Chen must die. If he doesn't die, I won't have a day of peace even if I keep the armor. The ancestor of the Mo family became determined. For the armor, he was willing to put his life on the line. Hidden within the formation, his arms moved slowly before him. He used a truth-tier battle skill. Demonic aura churned as a huge phantasm suddenly appeared. Its eyes were blood-red, and it gave off a chilling presence. Phantom God devours the heavens. The ancestor of the Mo family called out. The huge phantasm that was hidden within the demonic presence suddenly opened its mouth in that instance. Suddenly, a tremendous suction appeared from the phantasm's mouth. It seemed to be able to devour worlds, and it enveloped Jian Chen's body. Jian Chen's body immediately tightened. Under the influence of the suction, his body gradually moved towards the black hole-like mouth of the phantasm. Linear lightning release. Jian Chen's eyes turned cold. He did not retreat in the face of the suction. Instead, he formed a seal with one hand and turned into a bolt of lightning. He directly charged towards the mouth with unbelievable speed. With just a flash, Jian Chen had already entered the huge mouth of the phantasm. He tore through the demonic aura and emerged from the back of the phantasm's head. In the end, he collided with the formation. The huge phantasm froze, and its terrifying suction vanished as well. Strands of powerful, silver sword chi seemed to slice away at the phantasm's head. It flashed inside, growing more and more powerful and more blinding, directly drowning out the phantasm. In the end, the phantasm exploded with a boom. Sword chi scattered in all directions along with a demonic presence. It was also at this moment that Jian Chen slammed into the formation as a bolt of lightning. The formation had already shown signs of shattering from Jian Chen's previous attacks. Now that it received the ripples of energy from the phantasm's explosion and the attack from the linear lightning release, it had finally reached its limit. The entire formation began to collapse at that moment. Now that the formation was falling apart, the surroundings cleared up once again. However, the remote mountains had been reduced to a mess now. Many mountains had collapsed, and the ground was covered with cracks. The ancestor of the Mo family currently hovered near Jian Chen. He stared at Jian Chen, almost dazed. He had never thought that the earth and fire god-slaying formation he had cast down after paying such a heavy price would be destroyed by Jian Chen so easily. It was a powerful formation that could keep even late over gods trapped for several years. Jian Chen's eyes locked onto the ancestor of the Mo family. Killing intent rose up from him, and he formed a seal with his hand. He used the Daluo sword to slice at the ancestor's head without any hesitation at all. Jian Chen, you can't do anything to me. The ancestor of the Mo family cried out. Powerful demonic aura emerged from his body. The laws of the world wove before him as he slashed out as hard as he could. However, without the support of the formation, it was impossible for him to be Jian Chen's opponent. Not only did his full-powered slash fail to block the Daluo sword, but the Daluo sword even managed to strike his head directly. Bang! The ancestor's body was launched far into the distance. Even though he did not become injured thanks to the protection of the god artifact, his head still spun, and he saw stars from enduring the powerful force. Jian Chen pursued him. He slashed as hard as he could with the startling rainbow sword as he formed a seal with his left hand. He used the Daluo sword again to attack the ancestor's head. The ancestor of the Mo family understood the armor extremely well, as it had been in his hands for so many years. Although foreign forces could not smash through the armor, the powerful jolts would still be transmitted through the armor and into his body. The armor covered every single inch of the ancestor. Even his eyes were protected by a film, so Jian Chen could only transmit his powerful force through the armor to kill the ancestor. Boom! Boom! The ancestor only felt like his head was splitting open after enduring the 2 attacks from Jian Chen. His vision blackened as he felt like his skull was going to be shaken to pieces. The jolts through the armor were simply too powerful. He could endure it once or twice, but if he constantly went through it, his head would end up getting deformed regardless of his toughness. Jian Chen's attacks became more and more intense. He used the Daluo sword, Tai sword technique, and linear lightning release consecutively, essentially raining the ancestor's head with attacks. The ancestor had completely lost the ability to fight back. He solely relied on the armor's toughness to stay alive. Oh no, the armor is not as powerful as I imagined it to be. If this continues, my head will definitely be shaken to pieces by Jian Chen. I can't keep fighting. I need to flee, the ancestor thought quickly and made up his mind very soon. He took out a teleportation formation disc as quickly as he could from his space ring and activated it. However, the formation disc was split in half by a sword chi, cutting off any hopes of escape for the ancestor. Afterwards, Jian Chen clenched his left hand into a fist. He completely utilized the toughness of the chaotic force and struck the ancestor's head. His fist like a huge hammer surrounded by chaotic force. The fist was extraordinary. The ancestor's head hidden within the armor began to crack slightly as blood flowed from all his orifices. It was a horrible sight. Stop, Jian Chen. I'll return the armor. Spare me, the ancestor of the Mo family called out. He began to plead for his life. There was no chance for him to escape. He did not have the time to activate another teleportation disc, and he was nowhere near as fast as Jian Chen. Now that his soul was injured, he would be doomed if this continued. However, Jian Chen ignored his pleas. He launched his attacks at full power, sending all of them towards the head. Finally, as blood spurted in all directions, the ancestor's head was forcefully shaken to pieces inside the armor. It was a horrific death. Chapter 1874. The souls of mortals' blood oozed out of the armor's helmet. The ancestor of the Mo family's eyes no longer shone. A few cracks were even clearly visible on his eyeballs as they constantly bled. The ancestor of the Mo family fell out of the sky powerlessly, striking the ground heavily. With a resounding thud, he created a huge crater on the ground, kicking dust into the air. Jian Chen stowed the startling rainbow sword away while his turbulent presence was gradually dismissed as well. He arrived before the crater created by the ancestor of the Mo family. The dust immediately cleared as soon as he stood there while the ancestor's body slowly floated out of the pit under an invisible force. Blood constantly flowed from within the armor. Jian Chen removed the armor from the corpse of the ancestor. Only then did Jian Chen see his head. His entire head had already been reduced to pieces. Red and white matter mixed together. It was indescribably disgusting. Apart from his head, even the top half of his body had been reduced to a bloody mess. He did not possess a body as powerful as Jian Chen's, so even his body had almost been shaken apart. Fortunately, the space ring on the Mo family ancestor's finger was not destroyed. Only a series of densely packed, web-like cracks had appeared on it. Currently, the space ring was close to destruction. This space ring might break at any time, so I have to remove everything from inside as soon as possible. Without any hesitation, Jian Chen immediately moved all the items in there into his own space ring. However, to his surprise and joy, he discovered quite a lot of high-grade divine crystals in the ancestor's space ring. There were close to 10 blocks. Moreover, there were a few loose mid-grade divine crystals. Mid-grade divine crystals were not particularly effective for overgods during cultivation, so there were only a few thousand of them in the ancestor's space ring. Each one was only the size of a finger. Jian Chen also discovered a few cultivation methods and battle skills within the space ring. However, they were all demonic and extremely evil, far more than the Empyrean demon arts that Houston practiced. Jian Chen directly frowned when he saw them. In the end, Jian Chen destroyed them all. They were simply too disgusting. Jian Chen only looked over the materials and heavenly resources roughly as they were not of particularly high quality. After that, he put them all away in his space ring. Although these items are basically useless to me, I can keep them for the Tian Yuan clan. Whether it's heavenly resources or materials, the elders in the clan can never have enough, thought Jian Chen. Suddenly, Jian Chen produced an interjection of surprise. He discovered a black box in the space ring. It laid in an inconspicuous corner, protected by a layer of formations. Jian Chen took out the black box. After examining it closely in his hands, he removed the formation. Suddenly, a cold presence radiated from the black box. At that moment, Jian Chen seemed to hear the wails and screams of countless ghosts. It was an extremely chilling sound. Jian Chen furrowed his eyebrows, and he became rather stern. He slowly opened the box. Immediately, a black mist surged out from there, engulfing Jian Chen. Jian Chen's eyes shone brightly. The thick, black mist was unable to obscure his vision. Through the mist, he could clearly see that a palm-sized banner laid within the black box. When Jian Chen saw the banner, various mixed sounds rang out in his head. He heard the screams of ghosts, the pleadings of a woman, and wails filled with endless pain. He even began to see things in his head. The images were brutal. They were either pitiful, or they were evil, hair-raising spirits. There were many of them, forming a great black mass that blocked out the sun. It seemed like a living hell. Collect the souls of mortals and assist me in creating a demon artifact. I will gift you a fortune in exchange such that you will accomplish great things. It was also at this moment that an obscure sound rang out in Jian Chen's head. It seemed to be filled with a mysterious charm, making it seem bewitching. Even Jian Chen's eyes became confused as if he had become lost. In Jian Chen's sea of consciousness, the obscure voice seemed to become the voice of the world. It seemingly represented the will of the universe, making it irresistible. It boomed through Jian Chen's sea of consciousness and affected his mind. It seemed like the voice was forcibly planting its own will within Jian Chen so that it could affect his thoughts. However, Jian Chen's soul was nothing short of extraordinary. It was formed from a fusion between fighters and radiant saint masters, so it had undergone a transformation, making it mutate. It greatly differed from the souls of other people and could use martial soul force. According to Fairy Hao Yu, even with the entire saint's world in perspective, martial soul force was basically mythical. The people who could use it truly could be counted with 2 hands. The daze in Jian Chen's eyes only lasted for a few seconds before it cleared up. However, the demonic voice that had directly tried to plant itself in Jian Chen sensed nothing. It continued to speak like a robot, and it also informed Jian Chen of the method of collecting souls. After hearing that, killing intent immediately boiled in Jian Chen's heart. He said coldly, "What a vicious method. They actually use women born in a moment of Een on a day of Een in a month of Een, and on another day of Een in a month of Een, they'll impregnate her using a man that's also born in a moment of Een on a day of Een in a month of Een. Before the child is born, they'll choose a moment of Een on a day of Een to kill both the mother and the child brutally, and then they'll use a vicious method to extract their souls. All of this just to forge a demon artifact. Jian Chen looked at the black banner once again. He sensed the souls that had formed the thick, black cloud as he felt sorrow from the bottom of his heart. The number of souls in there had reached several 100,000. Every single soul had been pregnant when they were still alive. They were mortal women who had not cultivated, killed before their children were born. What a vicious demon. Just to forge a demon artifact, it wants to kill so many innocent people. Since the ancestor of the Mo family had this banner, quite a few of the souls must have come from him. Ancestor of the Mo family, you deserve to die, Jian Chen said coldly. Mortals and cultivators were different. Once cultivators began cultivating, they would have to drench their hands in blood in pursuit of greater strength. Whether it was the Tian Yuan continent or the Saints' world, every single expert had basically navigated through mountains of corpses to get to where they were. The truth behind their success was endless murders. This was why when cultivators died, they did not deserve sympathy. However, mortals were different. They lived short lives and were supposed to enjoy their short lives. The Mo family, Jian Chen gritted his teeth. Killing intent flashed in his eyes. He shut the box and resealed it with its formations before hurrying to the Blue River province with the corpse of the Mo family ancestor. Chapter 1875, Destruction of the Mo family. Many people were still discussing how the Mo family faced the attacks of a powerful enemy in the provincial city of the Blue River province. Many people were filled with excitement when they saw the ancestor of the Mo family flee. They all hoped that the Mo family would be destroyed as a result. Clearly, the Mo family had a horrible name in the Blue River province. They did not have the favor of the people. Many people already resented the Mo family, except they were unable to do anything due to the Mo family's strength. These people would naturally become especially excited when they saw such a powerful overgod begin fighting with the ancestor of the Mo family. All of them were eager. They eagerly hoped for the ancestor to be directly slain. Once the Mo family lost their overgod, they would not be able to exist for too long in the Blue River province. At this moment, there was a flash of light. The streak of light flew into the provincial city with lightning speed without raising the attention of many gods. In the end, it stopped above the Mo family. Jian Chen had returned to the provincial city with the body of the Mo family ancestor. He stared at the panic-stricken people of the Mo family coldly and did not show any pity in his eyes at all. He directly tossed down the corpse. It's the ancestor, impossible, this is impossible. How did the ancestor? When the people of the Mo family saw the corpse with an incomplete head, all of their eyes widened. They were stunned, and disbelief filled their faces. However, soon afterwards, there were a series of sorrowful wails. Many people cried out in sadness. The ancestor had always been the Mo family's province. His existence had allowed the Mo family to gain such a great status where no one dared to touch them. Now that the ancestor of the Mo family was dead, all the people in the Mo family realized that their clan had collapsed. The glory of the Mo family would become a matter of the past. At the same time, there were a few gods in the Blue River province who saw the corpse of the ancestor. They livened up and could not help but laugh out wildly. They were moved. Since the Mo family had lost their overgod, some of the powerful clans within the provincial city would work together to destroy them. Has your Mo family been capturing women frequently? Jian Chen stared at the people coldly as he hovered in the sky. Many of their expressions changed when they heard Jian Chen's question. They sensed an ill omen. Was one of the women they captured related to this person? The people from the Mo family looked at one another. Everyone thought of the same thing, and no one dared to speak out. Senior, the Mo family has indeed been capturing mortal women frequently. They have taken away over 100 women, at least from what I've witnessed. Most of them are mortals, a god said from outside the Mo family. Jian Chen's eyes immediately became frosty when he heard that quite a few of the captured women did not even cultivate. Killing intent rose up from his body. He glared at the people from the Mo family and said coldly, "Where are the mortal women that you've taken away?" They've already been sent to the ancestor. Only a small fraction of them fail to interest the ancestor, so they're kept in the clan. However, they've all suffered horrible fates. They're all dead. Senior, this one is Sun Shanggong. I'm not a part of the Mo family, only someone who has been recruited by them. I am not related to the Mo family. Please spare me, senior, a god from the Mo family said. His voice trembled in fright as he carefully begged for his life. Sun Shanggong, you coward. I've misjudged you, Sun Shanggong. You may not be a part of the Mo family, but don't forget you've personally caught quite a few women to please the ancestor. Sun Shanggong, you've also sullied quite a few women. There were quite a few gods from the Mo family who pointed out the dirty deeds that Sun Shanggong had committed. Suddenly, a tremendous presence radiated from Jian Chen. It flooded the surroundings, making all the bodies of the gods from the Mo family sink as if they now shouldered a mountain. They immediately fell quiet. Let me ask you, do you know where the ancestor of the Mo family keeps these women? Jian Chen glared at Sun Shanggong. There was one time when I sent a few mortal women to him. Back then, I discovered that the ancestor stores all of them in a spatial saint artifact. I'm guessing the women are still in the spatial saint artifact that the ancestor carries on him. Sun Shanggong said everything he knew. In order to live, he told Jian Chen everything. Jian Chen's senses of the soul immediately extended into the space ring. He checked through all the saint artifacts that the ancestor owned, and indeed, he found a spatial saint artifact that contained quite a number of people. There were over 1,000 of them. They were all mortals, with 80% of them being women. The remaining 20% were all young men. Many of the women were already pregnant. Just as expected. The ancestor of the Mo family was collecting the souls of mortals. I just wonder whether all of the souls in the banner came from the ancestor. Jian Chen felt sorrow when he saw the women in the saint artifact. The women were like the animals reared by mortals, to be slaughtered once they were ready. Senior, I've already told you what you want to know. Please spare my life, Sun Shanggong pleaded again from below. Jian Chen's senses of the soul receded from the spatial saint artifact. Killing intent poured out of him, and he said coldly, "How can I spare you after you've committed such heinous crimes?" With that, Jian Chen extended a finger. He shot out a sword qi that punched through Sun Shanggong's head, wiping out his soul. Quite a few gods from the Mo family had already taken out teleportation formation discs in an attempt to flee. Some of the deities did not possess a teleportation formation disc, so they flew off as quickly as they could. They fled in all directions. However, before an over-god, and a peak over-god in particular, even the gods did not have enough time to activate the teleportation formations. Jian Chen destroyed all the discs. As for the deities of the Mo family, they had all been stopped by gods either from other places or other powerful clans in the Blue River province. The Mo family did not have the citizens' favor in the Blue River province. Moreover, they had captured so many women across the years. They acted without precaution, so they naturally offended many people. Now that the ancestor of the Mo family was dead, the majority of the Mo family's power was gone. The people who resented the Mo family naturally stood forward without any hesitation at all, stopping all the people who tried to flee. For a moment, booms rang out across the provincial city. There was fighting everywhere. Many gods from powerful clans pursued the people from the Mo family. Ha ha ha, Mo family, to think you would have a day like this. Many people laughed aloud within the provincial city. A few people who managed to complete their revenge cried with hot tears. Don't you dare escape either. Jian Chen said to the gods of the Mo family coldly. He heavily injured all of them and sealed off their cultivation before throwing them all into the spatial saint artifact carried by the ancestor of the Mo family. The spatial saint artifact was of quite a high quality. It was far greater than the radiant saint artifact, as it could even withstand attacks from gods. Chapter 1876, Treasury. After Jian Chen put all the gods of the Mo family into the spatial saint artifact, it basically announced the imminent destruction of the Mo family that had been dominant for so many years. Now, the Mo family only possessed a few origin realm cultivators and servants as well as a few deities who did not flee. They were the ones who believed that death was liberation, and they wanted to die with their clan. Jian Chen ignored these people. He hovered in the sky as he expanded the senses of his soul. He searched every inch of the Mo family. His senses had even extended deep underground as he searched for anyone he missed. Indeed, he found 2 gods deep underground after he began his close search. They were currently hiding in a secret room. Boom! Jian Chen struck out once again. The startling rainbow sword shone brightly, illuminating the surroundings. It directly blasted the ground open. He used this extremely brutal method to dig deep and remove the earth. He used his brute strength as a late overgod to excavate a tunnel into the ground. The 2 gods hidden within the ground seemed to sense that something was off. Without any hesitation, they immediately took out their teleportation formation discs. They wanted to flee at the moment. However, a sword stabbed through the ceiling as a streak of light. It appeared with unbelievable speed, directly cutting off their arms as well as any hopes of escape. Afterwards, the ceiling of the secret room collapsed. A large quantity of soil fell down. A tunnel 1,000 meters in length plunged straight into the ground while the sunlight from the outside world gave the secret room some light. No god of the Mo family can escape. Jian Chen appeared in the secret room. He heavily injured the 2 of them and sealed up their cultivation before throwing them both into the spatial saint artifact. Jian Chen was about to leave the secret room after capturing the 2 people. However, his eyes narrowed at this moment. He gazed into the depths of the secret room. The underground room was extremely large. There were a few jade pedestals that were the size of cushions. From the traces left on them, he could tell that they were used for cultivation. However, behind the jade pedestals, he found a large door. A powerful formation at the level of overgods protected it. The light in Jian Chen's eyes flickered. He slowly made his way before the door. After hesitating momentarily, he smashed through the formation. Immediately, the underground room rumbled. The entire provincial city above shook violently as if a great earthquake had just happened. Thick cracks appeared on the ground, startling all the people in the city. Before long, Jian Chen smashed through the formation and directly entered through the door. At that moment, extremely turbulent origin energy surged out. The first thing that Jian Chen saw were 2 mountainous stacks of divine crystals. They shone with a blinding light, making them very eye-catching. One of the piles were low-grade divine crystals, while the other pile was mid-grade divine crystals. It was extremely plentiful. Besides the 2 stacks, the surroundings had various treasures. Not only were there cultivation methods and truth-tier battle skills, but there were also even quite a few heavenly resources and pills. This should be the treasury of the Mo family, Jian Chen murmured to himself. Many organizations possessed treasuries. After all, it was impossible for a single person to possess all the wealth of a whole clan. This was because the treasury was crucial to supporting the everyday activities of a clan. It would be accessed frequently. The ancestor of a clan would basically spend his or her entire time in secluded cultivation. Centuries could pass in the blink of an eye. They would be in no mood to manage these miscellaneous affairs. As a result, basically everything that was required to maintain the clan would be stored within the treasury. Powerful formations and the power of the entire clan would protect it. There are probably over 100 million low-grade divine crystals and a few million mid-grade divine crystals. Jian Chen walked around the 2 stacks before stowing them all away in his space ring. Although there were many divine crystals in here, they were all low-grade or mid-grade. If they were converted to high-grade divine crystals, there would only be 4 or 5 blocks. When Jian Chen emerged from the treasury, it had been completely emptied out. He took everything in there, regardless of whether they would be useful or not. Jian Chen returned to the surface again. He discovered that people had surrounded the entire Mo family. There were over 20 gods of various ages standing quietly to one side with their presences hidden. All of them stared at the tunnel that plunged straight into the ground. "Greetings, Senior." Seeing Jian Chen emerge, the gods all bowed towards him. They stated their own clans in an extremely polite manner. Most of these people were the ancestors of powerful clans in the Blue River province. Seeing that the Mo family had lost most of their power, all these clans mobilized their people. They hunted down the remaining forces of the Mo family and did not let anyone go. There were also a few gods from foreign places among them. They did not have any grievances with the Mo family. Instead, they disliked how the Mo family had been doing things, so they also took part in the hunt. "I'll leave the people of the Mo family for you to deal with, but don't kill the innocent," Jian Chen said to the gods. "As the senior wishes." The gods all responded very politely. Jian Chen left the Blue River province. He returned to the Tian Yuan clan in the divine kingdom of Ping Tian through the formations he had cast down. Then, he immediately summoned all the members of the upper echelon of the clan. "I've already prepared a path of retreat, so if the Empyrean demon cult comes and we can't repel them, immediately retreat through the teleportation formation. However, for the sake of safety, when you get transported away, I will leave people I trust to guard the teleportation formation. Unless we need to retreat, no one is to approach the teleportation formation," Jian Chen said sternly from his patriarch seat. Of course, he was just speaking to the gods that had come from the saints' world. Many people secretly let out a breath of relief in the discussion hall when they heard that they now had a path of retreat. After dispersing everyone, Jian Chen summoned the people from the lower world. He took out everything he had obtained from the Mo family and allowed them to take whatever they needed. Naturally, the people from the world of Forsaken Saints did not miss out either. They also got to choose treasures for themselves. "Jian Chen, where did you get so many things? Did you discover another dwelling?" Shangguan Mu'er blinked her eyes. All the items left her speechless. Only Origin Realm cultivators and deities can use most of these items. There isn't a lot that gods can use. As for the cultivation methods, they're all rather demonic, so I think Jian Chen has probably emptied out the treasury of a clan that practices demonic arts. Houston smiled as he sat on the floor. Currently, he was wearing his blood-red robes. His red hair rested on his shoulders casually as he stared at the floor covered in things. "Uncle Xiao is right. I have indeed emptied out an over-god clan's treasury." Jian Chen smiled before taking out the items he had obtained from the ancestor of the Mo family. He said, "These items come from the over-god himself. Have a look if there's anything you need. Once you've chosen what you want, split the rest with the other people. I don't need anything else. Just give me some more mid-grade divine crystals. I just happen to be in need of them for a breakthrough," said Shangguan Mu'er. Her enchanting eyes shone brightly while her voice sounded divine. "You should use high-grade divine crystals instead. The origin energy in high-grade divine crystals is purer. It'll be several times more effective compared to mid-grade divine crystals. I just happen to have quite a lot of it on me." Jian Chen stared at Shangguan Mu'er as a sliver of rare gentleness appeared in his eyes. Afterwards, he gave all his high-grade divine crystals to Shangguan Mu'er. These high-grade divine crystals originated from the 3 over-god from the Empyrean demon cult and the ancestor of the Mo family. Even though Shen Jian had taken away half of the high-grade divine crystals from the 3 overgods, there were still more than a dozen blocks if the Mo family ancestors' wealth was included. When I broke through to overgod before, I traveled quite a distance with 3 blocks of high-grade divine crystal to break them up into mid-grade divine crystals. Look at you now. You're directly giving your wife high-grade divine crystals for cultivation, a heavy voice rang out. Shan Jian walked over in simple clothes. He seemed to be smiling. Jianchen, I think you once said that using high-grade divine crystals to cultivate as a god is just too wasteful. I think you've said something like that before. Shen Jian sat down beside Jianchen and made fun of him. Chapter 1877, Within the Space, It's Different. That's because we happened to lack divine crystals back then, so we needed to use each divine crystal to its greatest capacity. Naturally, we needed to break them down and use them sparingly. But it's different now. We don't lack divine crystals, so there's naturally no need to save them like before. Jianchen smiled. He glanced at Sheng Wanmu and continued, most importantly, my wife is going to use the high-grade divine crystals. Even if it's wasteful, I don't feel it at all. Shen Jian stared at Jianchen in surprise. He acted like he had just met Jianchen and said, Jianchen, I could never tell over so many years that you're actually someone who takes his women as the priority over friends. You sure have hidden that well. Everyone burst out laughing when they heard that. Sheng Wanmu showed a rare sliver of embarrassment, but there was also a hint of warmth in her eyes. I wonder how Xiao Bao is right now and if he's doing well on the Tianyuan continent. However, with his strength, there's probably no one in the lower world who can abuse him. Sheng Wanmu could not help but think of the Sheng Wanaojian, who was still on the Tianyuan continent. An obvious sliver of reminiscence appeared in her eyes. Jianchen could tell the thoughts currently on Sheng Wanmu's mind. Jianchen arrived beside her and held her white, slender hand. He said softly, Mu'er, I can now cast down teleportation formations that can cross divine kingdoms. I believe that before long, I'll be able to cast teleportation formations that can cross worlds. It'll only be a matter of time before we can go back. Sheng Wanmu also held Jianchen's hand gently and nodded slightly. She anticipated the day when she could return home. Not only was her son, Sheng Wanaojian, on the Tianyuan continent, but her father, Hao Wu, was also there. I hope my father can last until the day I return. However, now that origin energy is gradually returning to the Tianyuan continent and the world is now connected to the world of Forsaken Saints, reaching the origin realm shouldn't be a problem with my father's talent, Sheng Wanmu thought to herself. Her prejudice towards her father had already vanished gradually. Jianchen only took a few items that were useful to him from the ancestor of the Mo family space ring among everything he had obtained from the Mo family. He either split the rest or stored it away in the treasury of the Tianyuan clan. After splitting everything, Jianchen gathered with the people from the lower world again before entering his own, personal secret room. The secret room had been dug deep underground. Fist-sized luminous pearls covered the surrounding walls and ceiling, and they gave off a warm light at all times. Jianchen sat in the secret room. He took out the spatial saint artifact he obtained from the ancestor of the Mo family. In the next moment, Jianchen vanished from the secret room. Only a fist-sized spatial saint artifact that was like a divine hall hovered outside. Jianchen appeared in the artifact space silently. Before him sat over 20 gods from the Mo family. They all used their full strength in an attempt to break through the seals Jianchen had cast down. They were all bloodied and pale-faced while their faces were haggard. They were all extremely weak. A few empty jade bottles used to store pills were cast beside them messily. Stop wasting your energy. I carry the spatial artifact with me, so even if you break through the seals, it won't change anything. That's because I'll sense it when you break through the seals on you, Jianchen said plainly as he stood with his arms crossed. Clearly, the gods did not sense Jian Chen's arrival. Their bodies all jolted when Jian Chen spoke out, and their eyes snapped open. However, all of them looked at Jian Chen furiously and with deep resentment. Patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, even if you've fallen out with the ancestor, you've already killed him. We elders of the Mo family have never provoked you or offended any person from the Tian Yuan clan. Why must you kill us all? A god from the Mo family said with a shrill voice. He stared at Jian Chen closely. He had never felt so much hatred for one person. Many of you probably can already guess the reason, but you just refuse to believe it. That's right, I am killing you all to avenge those mortal women. Removing your Mo family can save the lives of many mortal women, Jian Chen said coldly. His gaze was cold, without any sympathy or pity for the gods of the Mo family at all. Ha ha ha, mortals are only ants. You're actually going to kill so many gods because of a few ants? Patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, I don't know whether to describe your actions as heroic or ignorant. If I were you instead, I'd try to subdue all the elders so that they follow you and strengthen your clan. An old man laughed as he stared at Jian Chen in great interest. Jian Chen's expression remained the same. He shook his head gently and said, I don't need people who massacre the innocent. As he said that, a golden thread appeared in his hand silently. With a thought, the golden thread tied up all the gods and dragged them towards another place. On the other side of the interior of the spatial saint artifact, there was a small village. All the mortal women the Mo family captured lived there, subsisting off the land. All the people living there were stunned when Jian Chen arrived at the small village with over 20 gods tied up by the primordial god silk. Many of the pregnant women emerged from the buildings with their large bellies. They stared at Jian Chen and the others with curiosity. All of these women had been born at a moment of Een on a day of Een in a month of Een. None of them were particularly old. There were even girls who seemed younger than 10. Clearly, they were the people who had been brought in most recently. As for the men, they only amounted to 20% of the people here. Their purposes were evident. Who are you? At this moment, a burly man stood forward. He stared at Jian Chen and the others cautiously. Jian Chen talked, explaining the situation to all the people trapped here. When the women learnt that only death awaited them after being forced in here, all of them fell silent. Sorrow filled their eyes. A few of them were sent in here after they reached adulthood, so they knew about the outside world. There were also some people who had been brought in here as infants. They had only heard about the outside world, and they had never seen it with their own eyes. I thought once I gave birth to my child, would be able to leave here and go home. I never thought the reality would be so brutal, a woman sobbed sorrowfully. Don't worry. I've already destroyed the Mo family. These people are all elders of the Mo family. If you want revenge, here's your opportunity. Jian Chen took out the startling rainbow sword and threw it over. It directly stabbed into the earth before the women. The startling rainbow sword completely hid its glow, making it seem like an ordinary, treasured sword. Chapter 1878, The Een Mountains of Seven's Despair. Many of the gathered mortal women immediately paled in fright when they saw the startling rainbow sword on the ground and connected it with revenge. Many of them felt the power drain from their limbs. Living here, they had gone on without any conflict. They rarely ever saw blood, let alone killing people. Even the thought of killing people frightened them. They stood there for a very long time. Finally, an older woman stepped forward with hatred in her eyes. She lifted the startling rainbow sword from the ground and arrived before a god of the Mo family. She said with gritted teeth, "You are too vicious to lock up so many sisters here, only to kill us when our babies are about to be born. I originally thought we'd be free after we leave this place, and we'd be able to return to our lives in the outside world. I never thought we were all waiting for such a horrific fate. You deserve to die. You're all mortals, mere ants. Even if you have weapons in your hands, you can't harm us at all." A god stared at the woman disdainfully, and he acted with condescension. Sorrow filled the woman's face. She roared out furiously and directly stabbed the startling rainbow sword towards the god with the weapon in two hands. Even though the god's gaze was filled with contempt, he knew that the startling rainbow sword was extremely powerful as a high-quality saint artifact. However, the person wielding it was a mortal right now. As such, let alone using the power of the high-quality saint artifact, even just piercing his body was impossible. This was because mortals did not have much strength at all. However, the outcome surprised him. When the startling rainbow sword touched him, there was a flash of powerful sword chi. Before the sword chi, his body as a god was as fragile as paper, and the startling rainbow sword easily pierced him. The woman who wielded the startling rainbow sword did not even feel the slightest bit of resistance. The sword had stabbed the god in the chest, with its tip emerging from the other side. Blood dripped from it. The god turned his head with great difficulty towards Jian Chen, who was behind him. He opened his mouth to say something, but he did not have the power at all. The light in his eyes faded quickly, becoming hollow. His body collapsed whilst maintaining the same posture. A strand of sword chi had directly plunged into his head when the startling rainbow sword stabbed through his body, wiping out his soul. The death of the god made all the other elders from the Mo family pale. Despair filled their eyes. They naturally understood that the person who killed the god was not the mortal woman, but Jian Chen. If it were not for Jian Chen's secret help, it would be impossible for the woman to lift the sword with her mortal strength, let alone approach it. Although the sword was only 3 fingers wide and 1.3 meters long, it weighed several dozen tons. Afterwards, the other gods of the Mo family naturally suffered the same fate. They were all stabbed to death by the women with the startling rainbow sword. All of their souls were wiped out, and they were unable to escape. Jian Chen released everyone in the spatial saint artifact after dealing with the matter. He took out a few low-grade divine crystals from the space rings of the gods and settled down these people in the provincial city of the Dong'an province. At the same time, he contacted a few people in the clan to secretly take care of them so that they could live their lives safely. 3 days later, Jian Chen bid farewell to everyone. He asked Shen Jian to continue protecting the clan. Then, he left the Dong'an province all by himself. He used the teleportation formation in the clan and arrived in the divine kingdom of Qingyan. After that, he directly made his way towards the Yin Mountains of Seven's Despair. The Yin Mountains of Seven's Despair were located on the boundary between the divine kingdom of Qingyang and the divine kingdom of Datian. It was an extremely large mountain range. As a thick layer of rainbow, poisonous miasma covered the Yin Mountains of Seven's Despair all year round, many things that grew there were also poisonous. As a result, very few people set foot in the mountain range. Even when a few valuable resources grew in there, people rarely took the risk to enter the place. This was because the Yin Mountains of Seven's Despair possessed another name in the region, and that was the Grave of Gods. It was called that because in the depths of the mountains, even people as powerful as god kings could end up dead. The poisonous miasma was simply too powerful. Not only could it corrode the body, but it could also eat away at the soul as well. On this day, a young man who only seemed to be in his 20s appeared before the deathly silent foot of the mountains. The young man was handsome. His long hair ran down his shoulders while his gaze was rather complicated. It was ordinary sometimes and profound like ink at other times. It would also become sharp like swords at other times, which was enough to pressure people. His face possessed a sense of determination and willpower that did not match his age. Currently, he advanced with small but firm steps towards the mountains. Although he did not move quickly, he would travel an extremely great distance with each step. In just a few steps, he had moved several kilometers. Then he directly submerged into the thick, rainbow miasma. The miasma here really is powerful. I've just entered its range, and my body already feels uncomfortable. Jian Chen frowned slightly as he stood in the rainbow miasma. He found that it was far more powerful than he had imagined it to be. And I'm only on the outskirts. The miasma is the thinnest here. If deities enter this place, they'll probably struggle to even last half a minute. Another 100 meters in would be enough to kill gods in just half a minute. No wonder even god kings can die here. The miasma really is powerful, Jian Chen murmured to himself. He circulated his chaotic force and pushed the defenses of his chaotic body to the maximum before advancing towards the depths with firm steps. The miasma affected the usage of the senses of the soul. Not only was Jian Chen's vision affected in the miasma, limiting him to only a range of 1,000 meters, but even the senses of his soul were affected, and it was only able to engulf a range of 10 kilometers. Moreover, the miasma could even eat away at the senses. Whenever Jian Chen let his senses of the soul out, he could not keep it out for long. He had to make it recede within 15 seconds. Poisonous organisms thrived within the Yin Mountains of Seven's Despair. Not only were all the plants here poisonous, but there were also many venomous animals around as well. As Jian Chen advanced further, the miasma thickened as well while the poisonous organisms around him became more and more powerful. Not only did the poisonous organisms include magical beasts at godhood, but it also included various plants. The plants had lived for extremely long times, so some had gradually developed intelligence. They possessed extraordinary power. If gods had to face against them, they would definitely struggle to survive. Suddenly, a colorful flower that was 10 meters wide emerged from the soil. Each petal possessed potent poison as it closed together with lightning speed. At that moment, the flower had devoured Jian Chen completely. It was quick, just too quick. Jian Chen could not even dodge. Chapter 1879, Poison or Treasure. However, soon after it devoured Jian Chen, the colorful, poisonous flower began to tremble heavily in an unnatural manner. Its huge petals became covered with cracks very soon as inky green poison flowed out from the cracks. Squeak, 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 squeak. The flower produced strange sounds as if it was in pain. Its huge petals that had wrapped around Jian Chen shook violently. Afterwards, it suddenly began to struggle. Inky green poison spurted out like a fountain. The huge petal struck the ground heavily as it struggled painfully, creating a huge hole in the ground and making the earth tremble. Boom! Suddenly, there was a loud sound, and the flower exploded. It was blasted to pieces as its inky green poison splashed into the air. It was extremely poisonous. The poison was so potent that it was already enough to pose a great threat to overgods. As the flower exploded, Jian Chen, who it had just devoured, was exposed once again. A layer of flickering light protected, giving off light like the sun. Powerful sword intent radiated from him, which actually caused the rainbow miasma around to thin out slightly. Jian Chen had forced it back. With Jian Chen's current battle prowess, he would struggle to find an equal opponent among overgods. As long as he did not venture into the very depths of the mountain range, there really was not much that could threaten him. This flower's strength has actually reached early overgod, and it's skilled in ambushes. With its natural cover, it can catch people off guard. Probably even mid-overgods will suffer quite a bit even if they manage to survive. Jian Chen slowly receded the light around him. He stared at the body of the flower that had been blasted to pieces as a light flickered in his eyes. At this moment, a powerful ripple of energy attracted Jian Chen's attention. He walked over, and with a wave of his hand, a powerful gust struck the ground, blasting away the remaining tendrils of the flower. Immediately, a fist-sized, inky green pearl appeared before Jian Chen. Pure and powerful energy circulated within it vigorously. Jian Chen's eyes immediately narrowed when he saw the pearl. He said, "This is the core of the flower." A strange light flickered through Jian Chen's eyes. He extended his hand, made a gesture, and the core flew into his hand. Jian Chen frowned when the core entered his hand. He only sensed a stab of pain in his hand. His hand that had come in contact with the core rapidly blackened. The poison on the core was eating away at his flesh. What powerful poison! Jian Chen could not help but sigh in amazement. He circulated his chaotic force and forced the poison out. Even his corroded hand rapidly recovered. In just a few seconds, his hand had returned to its previous state. Now, with the circulation of chaotic force, the poison within the core was unable to harm Jian Chen anymore. The light in Jian Chen's eyes flickered. He stared at the core in his hand with great interest and murmured, "The flower's strength is equivalent to an early overgod, while this core basically contains all the essence of its energy. If I can purge the poison from inside," Jian Chen's eyes began to shine. He looked around and saw the other plants in the surroundings. A while later, Jian Chen put the core away and continued on his way. He had considered immediately refining the energy within the core to cultivate. After all, the core belonged to an early over-god existence. The energy inside was so terrifying that even 10,000-year god origin pills paled in comparison. However, his current cultivation level was only equivalent to a god. His chaotic force could fend off the poison from the flower, but it was unable to refine it. As for his late over-god level comprehension of the laws of the sword, it was only his level in terms of comprehension of laws. It was useless for refining the poison in the core. As a result, he could only put the poisonous core away for now. Unbeknownst to Jian Chen, the moment he killed the flower, a tremendous, sea-like presence had slowly awakened within a huge cave in the very depths of the mountain range. As the presence awakened, the entire mountain top trembled violently. All the organisms there lied down and trembled as fear filled all their eyes. One of this king's clones has been slain by an outsider. An extremely powerful mental pulse emerged from the cave, transforming into a furious roar. It caused the ground in the cave to shake violently. An extremely huge and colorful flower gradually emerged. The flower was exactly the same as the colorful flower that Jian Chen had killed. The only difference was its size, and the difference was actually quite drastic. The flower he had killed before was only 10 meters across, while the flower here was several hundred meters wide. Calm down. We cannot disobey the ninth prince's commands. Unless the outsider sets foot in our territory of his own accord, we can't attack him. If the ninth prince knows what happens, you'll be in deep trouble, an ancient voice boomed out. A huge face appeared out of nowhere in the huge cave. It was filled with wrinkles, making it seem extremely ancient. The appearance of the face was clearly condensed from a sliver of power from the soul. The huge flower radiated with powerful killing intent, which grew colder and colder. In the end, it did not set foot out of the cave. It only gave off a cold metal pulse. "Outsider, this king will wait for you here. I hope you don't disappoint me." The outsider basically knows that the depths of the mountain range is a forbidden zone. Although the outsider is powerful, he may not necessarily have the guts to come here. "Qizong, you have to think of an idea that will provide you with the chance to avenge your clone," said the ancient voice. Jian Chen constantly advanced towards the depths of the mountain range. He was currently located in the general region. The miasma there had reached an extremely terrifying level. Even late overgods could not remain there for more than 4 hours. Jian Chen was only able to stand there safely thanks to the toughness of the chaotic body and the protection of his light from the laws of the sword. As a result, he had no reason to fear the miasma around here. However, his vision had already shrunken from the initial 1,000 meters to just 500. Jian Chen rarely used the senses of his soul now. The miasma was just too powerful here. Once he let it out, the miasma would rapidly corrode it away. As a result, in just a few seconds, his head would begin spinning. I've killed many demonified plants as well as quite a few poisonous beasts. It's just a pity that I haven't been able to collect many cores. I don't know what this is all about. Not all demonified plants have cores, while basically all the poisonous beasts possess a monster core. Among the plants and beasts I've killed, there are a total of 9 that have reached the level of overgods. Apart from 3 poisonous beasts, the remaining are all plants, and I've only managed to collect 3 cores from the 6 of them. Jian Chen ran some calculations. Although he had not found any heavenly resources that could heal the soul along the way, he had found quite a lot of useful things. The only pity was that all the poisonous beasts and plants he killed did not possess space rings, so he did not even obtain a single divine crystal. Chapter 1880, The Album Stone Heart Flower. With a flip of his hand, Jian Chen took out the 3 monster cores from his space ring. The 3 monster cores were of the same sizes as the cores from the plants. They did not seem much different from the plant cores on the outside. They were also inky green and possessed powerful poison. These were monster cores equivalent to overgods. They were also the greatest monster cores that Jian Chen had ever seen in his life. However, Jian Chen felt extremely helpless as he stared at the 3 powerful monster cores. He experienced unspeakable hardships. After reaching the 10th layer of the chaotic body, he had ingested the golden ginseng from God King Duanmu's space ring as well as quite a few high-grade heavenly resources and several dozen 10,000-year God origin pills. These items had all allowed his chaotic Niden to grow. He was quite close to the 11th layer now. Perhaps, he only needed to refine 3 monster cores at the level of overgods to break through successfully. Even if the 3 monster cores were not enough, he still possessed a few cores from the plants. It would not be a problem for him to reach the 11th layer. However, the part that made Jian Chen feel extremely helpless was that both the monster cores and plant cores possessed extremely powerful poison. It was far beyond the level that his chaotic force could refine. As a result, he currently possessed the resources to reach the 11th layer of the chaotic body, but he could not use it, which made him feel extremely conflicted. I'll probably need a God King to refine the poison in the plant cores and monster cores, Jian Chen sighed gently. He dismissed his feelings and continued on his way. His main purpose in coming to the Een Mountains of Seven's Despair was not to find plant cores and monster cores. Instead, he had come here for heavenly resources that could heal the soul. Along the way, he had discovered that quite a few heavenly resources grew here, but unfortunately, they had all been contaminated by the miasma, causing them to mutate and develop poison. They would only be detrimental if consumed. Jian Chen did not find a single, usable heavenly resource for healing the soul. After traveling for another dozen kilometers, Jian Chen's eyes suddenly narrowed. A white flower stood 100 meters away from him. It was only the size of a hand. It was enveloped by a sacred, hazy white light. Even though the poisonous miasma surrounded it, the miasma was unable to penetrate the light, allowing the white flower to grow in the poisonous environment of the mountains. That's a white jade spirit platform flower. Jian Chen's eyes lit up, and he became excited. The white jade spirit platform flower was a heavenly resource that could heal the soul. It was of a similar grade to the soul-drawing lotus, making it an extremely high-grade and rare heavenly resource. At this moment, there was a loud beast roar. The ground trembled violently as a 6-meter-tall magical beast rushed over from afar. It seemed like a boar in that it was extremely fat, but it also possessed a set of wings on its back. Due to being simply too massive, its tiny wings were clearly not enough to take it into the air. However, its presence was so powerful that its appearance led to a short silence in the mountains. Even Jian Chen furrowed his eyebrows. A late overgod magical beast. Jian Chen stood as still as a rock. This was the most powerful existence he had encountered so far in the mountains, but he did not show any fear. The poisonous beast rushed over from the distance. It used its fat body to block the flower as it stared at Jian Chen furiously. It directly opened its huge mouth to produce a roar. At the same time, it spat out green poison from its mouth. The poison flew like an arrow towards Jian Chen. Daluo sword. At the same time, Jian Chen struck out as well. He directly used the Daluo sword in an attempt to finish the battle fast. The golden sword Qi directly tore through the wild boar's poison like a hot knife through butter, landing viciously on the beast's huge head. Immediately, potent poison splattered. A deep gash appeared on the beast's huge head. Its tremendous body had also been pushed back, and it landed on the ground heavily. This caused the ground to shake. Jian Chen protected himself with white light from the laws of the sword. He stood a step with the startling rainbow sword and crossed the 100-meter distance between them, arriving beside the white jade spirit platform flower. He directly picked it and stowed it away carefully. The wild boar-like beast became enraged when Jian Chen picked the flower. It produced an extremely furious roar, and its eyes became bloodshot. It charged at Jian Chen wildly. Its mountainous body directly tore through the vegetation, reducing the huge trees it collided with to dust. At that moment, the tiny wings on its back emitted a powerful pulse of energy. Like two wind blades, they chopped towards Jian Chen with lightning speed after a flash of light. Jian Chen was emotionless, and his eyes were cold. He slashed out with the startling rainbow sword as it shone brightly. The resplendent sword Qi caused the miasma in the surroundings to retreat, while the bright white light illuminated the entire forest. Boom! The sword Qi collided with the blades from the beast's wings. There was a loud sound from the collision of powerful energy, and a storm of energy that swept the surroundings was formed. It kicked up soil from the group and obliterated the surrounding vegetation. The miasma that filled every inch of the surroundings churned violently. After the attack, Jian Chen remained where he was. He stood as still as a mountain. His sword shone brightly, completely obscuring the blade. However, the huge, poisonous beast emitted a chilling wail. It was filled with pain. Its two small wings had been chopped off from its back. Green blood had dyed its entire body as it struggled painfully. Spurt. It was also at this time that Jian Chen stabbed out with the startling rainbow sword. With a flash of light, it penetrated the beast's head and wiped out its soul. The beast's huge body immediately flopped down, losing all signs of life. Even its monster core was removed by Jian Chen. The startling rainbow sword vanished from Jian Chen's hand. He looked into his space ring to see the flower he had just picked and filled showed a faint smile. He said, "I've finally found a heavenly resource that can heal the soul. I just wonder whether a single album stone heart flower will be enough to awaken Kaya or not. I better find some more to be on the safe side." Jian Chen analyzed to himself. He was confident that as long as he did not set foot into the very depths of the mountains, there were very few organisms that could threaten him with his strength. Suddenly, a unique fragrance wafted over. Jian Chen only took a single breath of it, and he felt his soul shudder violently. He felt like all the power of his soul that he had lost during the time in the mountains had been replenished in a single moment. At the same time, he felt his soul become even more consolidated and powerful compared to before. Of course, this was only an illusion caused by the breath of fragrance. Even though that was the case, Jian Chen gathered his attention. A strange light filled his eyes. His soul was already so powerful, yet just a single breath of the fragrance could make him feel like that. He immediately determined that the heavenly resource that the fragrance originated from was of a terrifying grade. This should also be a heavenly resource that can heal the soul. Although I haven't seen it, I know just from its smell. It's extremely like to have reached the 9th grade of the immortal tier. It's at a far higher grade compared to the soul-drawing lotus or the album stone heart flower. Jian Chen's breathing became rather ragged. He looked in the direction that the fragrance came from and only saw a thick layer of miasma. Chapter 1881, A God King's Pursuit. The location of the whatever gave off that fragrance should be quite far away from me. It's a pity that the rainbow miasma is affecting my vision and senses of the soul, so I am unable to see as far as where the heavenly resource is. I can only determine its direction from where the fragrance comes from. Jian Chen stared in the direction of the fragrance and immediately hurried off in that direction. Like a ghost, Jian Chen silently moved through the miasma-covered mountain ranges. He moved extremely quickly. Along the way, he naturally came across many dangers. He only ended up entangling with some powerful plants. However, with Jian Chen's current strength, there was basically no organism that could threaten him as long as he did not come across any god kings. As such, he obviously dealt with them all with great ease. Unfortunately, none of them possessed cores. The number of cores at the level of overgods on Jian Chen was the same as before, only amounting to 6. This was a huge harvest to him, far greater than the high-grade divine crystals he could have collected from killing other overgods. If it were not for the fact that the plant cores and monster cores possessed poison, any single one of them would be worth several dozen blocks of high-grade divine crystal. After Jian Chen had traveled 100 kilometers in the direction of the fragrance, he came to a sudden halt. He frowned as he stared at the coiling miasma up ahead. He sensed that something was off. What is this heavenly resource? Its fragrance is able to travel so far even in the unique environment of the Een Mountains of Seven's Despair. I've traveled for 100 kilometers, yet I haven't even been able to get a glance of the heavenly resource, Jian Chen thought. The light in his eyes flickered with uncertainty. He did not continue on his way for a while. Logically speaking, the miasma in a place like these mountain ranges would affect the fragrances from all heavenly resources, causing the range of the fragrance to shrink. However, the fragrance I can smell has traveled 100 kilometers at the very least. Is there someone trying to bait me over, or is the heavenly resource just at a terrifying grade, having surpassed the 9th grade of the immortal tier and reached the legendary god tier? As soon as Jian Chen thought that it was likely to be a god-tier heavenly resource, his heart began to beat uncontrollably. However, he calmed down very soon. He stared ahead and became determined. He said to himself softly, if I keep advancing, I'll be entering the very depths of the mountains. It's the most terrifying part of this place. Rumors have it that even god kings can die there. Although Jian Chen was confident in himself, he was not arrogant. He could move around in the general region of the mountains, but he was extremely wary of the very depths. He did not dare to set foot in there so easily. Even god kings could die there. He, a mere overgod, was an ant-like existence before god kings. If he came across any terrifying dangers, he would be doomed. However, the fragrance from in there had indeed piqued Jian Chen's interest. It was almost a fatal attraction to him, and it basically caused his blood to boil. This was because a 9th grade immortal tier or even a god tier heavenly resource was extremely rare. The greater the risk, the greater the reward. A high-grade heavenly resource like that is worth it for me to take the risk. Moreover, I have a god artifact to protect me. Coupled with the toughness of my chaotic body, I think I can retreat no matter what dangers I come across. Finally, Jian Chen made up his mind. He took out the armor from his space ring and put it on before continuing into the very depths of the mountains. The ancestor of the Mo family had completely repaired the external form of the armor. It wrapped around Jian Chen's body, only revealing his eyes. At the same time, a thin film protected even his eyes. It was truly airtight. Jian Chen became cautious when he set foot in the depths of the mountains. He advanced carefully as he paid close attention to his surroundings. He was extremely vigilant. His current location simply did not allow for him to be careless. In a place where even god kings could die, he would be doomed if was inattentive for even the slightest moment. After I've entered the depths, all the sounds of the birds and beasts have vanished. It's deathly silent. That all means that it's extremely dangerous and extremely terrifying here, so terrifying that the poisonous beasts that are on par to overgods dare not to set foot here. Jian Chen's eyes shone. He advanced extremely cautiously in the direction of the fragrance. After advancing for a few more kilometers, a huge cave appeared before Jian Chen. The cave was gloomy and because of the miasma, Jian Chen was unable to see through the darkness. However, the fragrance that had spread to 100 kilometers away originated from this cave. Jian Chen erased his presence. Under the complete protection of the god artifact, he approached the cave carefully. However, just when Jian Chen had advanced halfway, he suddenly came to a halt. He sensed the presence of death looming over him rapidly. At that moment, his body had become abnormally cold. Even his blood seemed to stop flowing. Jian Chen responded extremely quickly. He directly retreated as quickly as he could while forming a seal with one hand. He used the linear lightning release without any hesitation to flee. At the same time, a thick vine burst out from the ground where Jian Chen had just been standing. It basically brushed past Jian Chen's chest, shooting towards the sky with a powerful pulse of energy. It had almost struck him. God King. Jian Chen's heart shivered. Without thinking too much, he used his sword technique and a light surrounded him. Afterwards, he turned into a bolt of lightning and directly fled outwards. You want to go? It's not that easy. Stay behind for this king. A powerful mental pulse shook through the forest. It was filled with fury and extremely heavy killing intent. With that, the ground cracked and huge vines burst out. Each vine possessed terrifying energy. The energy was so great that space shook, and the surrounding miasma dispersed. It possessed a devastating might. Swish! 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 The vines burst through the air. It seemed to break free from the limits of space, shooting into the distance in a single instance. It pursued Jian Chen, who had transformed into a bolt of lightning. However, even though the vines were extremely fast, Jian Chen's linear lightning release was even faster. The distance between the two of them rapidly increased. Duo T, stop him! Another mental pulse appeared when the vines could not catch up to Jian Chen. The pulse directly emanated to another cave nearby. Qizong, you owe me a favor, a rough and heavy voice boomed out from the cave. With that, Jian Chen suddenly felt his body tighten. The space around him froze in that instance, trapping him there firmly like a jail. He struggled to even move a finger. Profound sword chi. With a thought, a finger-sized sword chi appeared above his head. It radiated with surging sword intent, which was extremely surprising. Boom! The profound sword chi directly struck the frozen space, causing it to shake violently. The jail formed from frozen space broke apart loudly. This intruder has some skill. An interjection of great surprise rang out from the second cave. However, after Jian Chen was stopped temporarily, the thick vines caught up. They wrapped around him in layers, completely binding him. Jian Chen's heart sank. He directly launched the second strand of profound sword chi at the vines. However, the vines were far tougher than he could imagine. The profound sword chi only managed to cut through two of them. Not only did it fail to get through all the vines on him, but it had even caused more vines to wrap around him. Chapter 1882, A desperate stand. More and more vines wrapped around Jian Chen, growing tighter and tighter. In the end, every single vine seemed to have become an extremely tough wire that was countless times more powerful than steel. It wrapped around Jian Chen with an extremely terrifying force as if it was trying to crush Jian Chen. Jian Chen was completely immobilized. The vines were extremely powerful, such that no matter how he struggled and no matter what technique he used, he was unable to break free. Now, even with his strength at peak over God, he was unable to even move a finger. This was because he currently faced a God King. At the same time, he felt that this God King was far more powerful than the Grand Imperial Protector from the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian. Creak. The tightening vines rubbed against his armor, producing an ear-splitting sound. If it were not for the God artifact, the vines probably would have crushed Jian Chen's body to pieces. I didn't think the intruder would be wearing a piece of armor. It's a God artifact, something that even infinite primes don't possess. It's just a pity that the armor is damaged and no longer perfect. A heavy, rough voice boomed out from the second cave again. It was filled with much interest. Qizong, you can't use this God artifact, so you take the person, and I'll take the armor. I'll count it as you returning the favor. As the voice spoke, an extremely burly, bare-chested and bald man emerged from the second cave. The man's appearance was nothing special. The only thing that stood out was an imprint between his eyebrows. The imprint radiated with the power of laws. It seemed to disturb the surrounding space, causing the space around him to tremble gently as if he controlled it. You can take the armor, but just don't let him escape. Qizong produced a mental pulse. Don't worry. I control this space. No matter how fast he is, he won't be able to escape, the man said confidently. The vines around Jian Chen suddenly loosened, and he immediately regained mobility. However, the vines did not retreat. Instead, they filled the surroundings, forming a huge cage that trapped Jian Chen, preventing him from escaping. The bald man also stood within the cage of vines. He stared at the God artifact on Jian Chen's body as he seemed to covet it. Even though Jian Chen knew it was very difficult for him to escape, he could not just sit there and wait for his death after he regained his mobility. He took out a few soul recovery pills and ate them to replenish the power of the soul he had depleted from using the 2 strands of profound sword qi. At the same time, he formed seals with his hands to fend off the man with his full strength. Daluo sword. Tai sword technique. With a flash of gold and silver light, Jian Chen basically used the 2 techniques together. They radiated with sword intent as they shot towards the bald man. The bald man stood there with his arms crossed. He stared at Jian Chen scornfully. He directly ignored the 2 strands of sword qi from Jian Chen. The 2 strands of sword qi really were very powerful. They were enough to pose great threats to late over gods, but they were simply too weak in the eyes of the God King. But surprisingly, before the 2 strands of sword qi could approach the bald man, they collided together and produced a great boom. Powerful ripples of energy and scattered sword qi wreaked havoc in the surroundings, forming an extremely frightening storm. It directly rammed into the cage formed by the vines. However, the vines were extremely tough. The energy was enough to cause the expressions of over-gods to change, but it was nothing to God Kings. The storm of energy was firmly locked within the cage. Jian Chen's intentions were never to have the storm of energy burst through the vines. At the moment the explosion happened, a teleportation formation disc appeared in his hand. Borrowing the storm of energy as a cover, he activated the disc as quickly as possible. You're a mere over-god. If you really escaped before me, would I still have the dignity left to see other people in the future? Freeze. The bald man made fun of him. When he said these final words, Jian Chen's body became immobilized instantly. The space around him had suddenly frozen. Not only was his body affected, but the explosion of energy from the 2 strands of sword qi also froze at that moment as well. Jian Chen's heart sank. He looked at the bald man. His control over space had reached such a powerful level. Even if Jian Chen exerted his full strength, he could break through this simple space freeze. God Kings are actually so frightening, Jian Chen's heart completely sank. This was the first time he had fought against god kings. He discovered that he was unable to resist against them at all. The god artifact is mine now. Duo Ti's burly body appeared before Jian Chen like he had teleported, and he removed the armor from Jian Chen's body. Since Jian Chen was unable to refine the armor, he only wore it on him, so Duo Ti was able to take it off him easily. He examined it in his hand fondly as he smiled. He was extremely delighted. Qizong, I'll leave this intruder to you. After taking the armor, Duo Ti directly left. Even though the space around him had returned to its previous state, Jian Chen became entangled by the thick vines again. The ground shook violently. As thick cracks spread out rapidly, a colorful flower that was several hundred meters in width gradually burst out. It shone with rainbow light, which was an enchanting sight. So it turns out a flower is keeping me trapped. Jian Chen's eye narrowed when he saw the flower. Jian Chen had seen the flower before. He had once killed a flower like that soon after he had entered the mountains. Aside from the size, everything else was the same. The vines around him were the countless strands of roots from the flower. Intruder, you killed my clone. I want to suck you dry, devour your flesh, and then torture your soul. I'll let you understand pain that is worse than death to avenge my clone. The huge flower was unable to speak, so it emitted a furious mental pulse. After Jian Chen lost the protection of his god artifact, the roots wrapped around him penetrated into his flesh. All the blood that flowed out was sucked dry by the roots. Jian Chen truly faced a threat of death right now. At the same time, in Jian Chen's space ring, Kaiya's eyelashes actually trembled gently within her crystal casket as if she wanted to open her eyes. The seven-colored heaven-devouring beast on the casket sensed something. It suddenly opened its eyes and stared at Kaiya. Its clever eyes were filled with doubt as well as some eagerness. Unfortunately, Kaiya's eyelashes only trembled and that was all. Outside, even though Jian Chen faced death, he was composed. He stared at the huge flower calmly and said, "Is that so? The flower I killed before was actually your clone. However, killing me won't be that easy." With that, a streak of azure and violet light surged towards the sky from Jian Chen's body. It was dazzling, bursting through the colorful miasma and directly into the sky. It turned into two swords that caused the surroundings to pale in comparison. Twin swords fusion. Jian Chen roared out. The voice seemed to possess endless charm, ringing across the entire mountain range and even penetrating the rock. His left eye had actually become completely azure, while his right eye had become completely violet. They shone with startling light. "Master, the chance of you surviving is less than 10% if you fuse the two swords." The voices of the sword spirits rang out in Jian Chen's head, but they did not stop him. They understood what kind of danger he was facing right now. Chapter 1883, 9 God Kings. Even if my chance of surviving is less than 10%, it's still a chance for survival. If I don't do this, I'm dead for sure. From what the God King flower has shown, it's far more powerful than the Grand Imperial Protector of the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian. I can only rely on the fusion of the two swords to survive now. Moreover, even if my soul disperses after the fusion of the two swords, I can't let this flower have it easy. It must pay a heavy price. Jian Chen said in his head. His eyes were determined. He had already run out of options. The flower was so powerful that he could not threaten it at all, even if he used the profound sword qi. This was because the disparity between their strength was just too great. If you fuse the two swords, the flower will be dead for sure. But you, master. The sword spirit sighed. Two strands of azure and violet sword qi hovered above Jian Chen's head. They tore through the colorful miasma, directly reaching for the skies, giving off a devastating might. Under Jian Chen's control, the two strands of sword qi gradually approached each other. They were about to be fused into one. Immediately, as the two strands of sword chi constantly drew closer, a terrifyingly devastating pressure gradually charged up in the surroundings. It became more and more powerful, weaving chaos into the surroundings. The space in the area shook violently. The pressure was just too great. Before it, the world seemed to shake in fear. What is this? Qizong used its roots to wrap around Jianchen tightly. In its eyes, Jianchen was an existence as insignificant as an ant that could be slain in a single strike. However, at this moment, the terrifying presence that Jianchen gave off actually made him shake uncontrollably. A sense of terror it had never experienced before filled its entire body silently. This was because it could taste the presence of death. It was so close. God damn it, what is this secret technique? It's so terrifying that even I feel shivers. The man who had taken Jianchen's armor emerged from his cave again. His eyes had widened completely as he stared at Jianchen in shock and disbelief. The intruder is using a devastating secret technique. Qizong, what are you hesitating for? Kill him. Don't let him finish charging up. In the distance, a huge, ancient tree made its way over with its roots. An ancient face appeared on its thick trunk that was filled with wrinkles. The face was stern. This was an ancient tree that had developed a consciousness. It also possessed the strength of a god king, and like Qizong, it was no ordinary god king. It was much more powerful than the grand imperial protector of the divine kingdom of Pingtian. The appearance of the ancient tree caused Jianchen's eyes to narrow as he tried to fuse the swords. He never thought that there would actually be 3 god kings hidden within the depths of the mountains. Kill him quick, Qizong, hurry up and do it. However, it did not stop there. There were far more than 3 god kings hidden within the depths of the mountain range. After the ancient tree appeared, a few more figures emerged from the colorful mist. The presences they gave off were extremely shocking. 8 god kings. Even Jianchen had become stunned now. In such a small mountain range, there were actually 8 god kings hiding. At this moment, a hiss rang out. A snake that was only as thick as a bowl and frighteningly long slithered out from the depths of the miasma. It also stared at Jianchen sternly with its small, beady eyes. The long, thin snake possessed a gold and silver stripe all the way from head to tail. A golden-striped silver snake. Jianchen's heart jumped. He recognized this thin, long snake instantly. It was of the same species as Nubis. The snake was also a god king. 9 god kings. Jianchen felt bitter inside. Only now did he understand just what place he had come to. There was actually a nest of god kings hidden in this area, and they were all experts that could use poison. In the next moment, Jianchen bellowed out. His body shone with bright, azure and violet light as he poured all his strength into fusing the 2 swords. With his current strength, he was unable to fuse the 2 swords instantaneously. He needed to charge it up. However, Jianchen basically wished that the swords could fuse instantaneously right now. Blood oozed from the corner of his lips. The fusion of the 2 swords was just too terrifying. Even before they had fused, he already had to endure the backlash. Even if I have to die here today, I'll drag a few of you down with me. Jianchen had already embraced death. At the same time, Qizong struck out as hard as he could in an attempt to stop Jianchen from fusing the swords. Suddenly, something happened. A gentle light descended from the sky. It pierced through the layers of miasma and surrounded Jianchen as a screen. The screen of light seemed thin, but it was extremely powerful. When Qizong's full-powered attack landed, it was actually unable to smash through the paper-thin screen. What powerful laws! Who is it? Qizong produced a mental pulse as the huge flower swayed gently. Each petal rapidly closed up as it began charging up a great power. The screen of light that had blocked its attack was not powerful by itself. Instead, it was the laws that were powerful. The expressions of the other 8 god kings in the mountain range changed slightly. They all looked at the screen of light before Jian Chen, and they became stern. Naturally, Jian Chen sensed the sudden change. He stared at the layer of gentle light around him as a sliver of joy appeared on his face. He was extremely familiar with the gentle light. He was so familiar with it that he immediately thought of a beautiful figure. You better stop your secret technique soon. I don't know what it is, but it's far more powerful than what you can use right now. You'll end up paying an unimaginable price if you use it. A familiar voice rang out in Jian Chen's head. A woman in a white dress slowly descended from the sky as pure white moonlight revolved around her. Her beauty was striking. A bright moon seemed to exist behind her, making her seem like an immortal crossing the moon. She seemed otherworldly, having transcended mortal affairs. The presence she gave off was as tremendous as the ocean, and it directly enveloped the entire mountain range. It was extremely terrifying, and it was enough for the surroundings to shake and the clouds to churn. Her cold eyes gradually scanned past the 9 god kings. They possessed some contempt as if she was looking at 9 ants. Chapter 1884, Fairy Hao Yu steps forward. Fairy Hao Yu. Jian Chen's voice was filled with delight. He had never thought that in this moment of great danger, the Fairy Hao Yu who had left several dozen years ago would actually appear here. Moreover, she was actually so powerful, far greater than she was when she had originally escaped from God King Duanmu's dwelling. Just a layer of protection she cast down now could easily block Qi Zhang's attack. Jian Chen understood that the great problem he was facing would be resolved with Fairy Hao Yu's appearance. Without any hesitation, he immediately stopped the fusion of the twin swords. At the same time, the sword spirits secretly assisted Jian Chen as well. They used their full strength to separate the 2 swords that were just about to fuse together. Jian Chen experienced a powerful backlash again during this time. Blood completely drained from his face as he became haggard. He gave off a sense of weakness. The backlash from the fusion of the 2 swords was simply too powerful. Just the process of fusion, before they had actually fused together, had made Jian Chen become so heavily injured. If it were not for his chaotic body that was extremely tough, he would only have half a life left even if he managed to avoid death. We belong to the 9th Prince of the Blood Sun Empire. Who are you? Which clan or sect do you belong to? Qi Zhang's huge petals were closed tightly. He produced a mental pulse that was filled with sternness. At the same time, the other 8 god kings hidden in the depths of the mountain range emerged as well. Some of them had already assumed human form, while others remained the same as before, similar to Qi Zhang. They stood with Qi Zhang. All of them stared at Fairy Hao Yu extremely sternly. Fairy Hao Yu did not pay attention to the 9 god kings. She turned around to study Jian Chen and frowned. Didn't I give you a jade talisman to contact me when I left? Why didn't you crush it to contact me now that you're in danger? If it weren't for the fact that I just happened to be passing by, you'd probably die today. Jian Chen smiled bitterly. Before me, there are 9 god kings. Although I can't tell what their exact strength is, they must be beyond early god king. I have no idea just how much strength you've recovered in a few short decades. If I called you over, and you weren't their opponent, wouldn't I have doomed you instead? Moreover, if you were extremely far away, how would I be able to ask for help in such a short amount of time? I don't even know if you can make it in time. That's somewhat reasonable. However, the 9 people before you are all late god kings. They're indeed on a whole different level compared to early god kings, said Fairy Hao Yu. Afterwards, she took out a pill and gave it to Jian Chen. She said, "This is a god-tier healing pill. Eat it." God-tier pill? Jian Chen was secretly tongue-tied. God-tier pills were on a whole different level compared to immortal-tier pills. Every single one of them could be worth cities. Even many god kings did not possess pills at such a level. He had never thought that in just a few short decades, Fairy Hao Yu could even take out god-tier pills. I'll return the god artifact to you. Sir, please leave immediately, the bald man said emotionlessly and reluctantly tossed over the armor that he had not even managed to wear. Duo T decided to hand back the armor in such a straightforward manner because the armor was damaged, so its value had been greatly reduced. Moreover, he could tell that Fairy Hao Yu was powerful. There was no reason to gain such a powerful opponent for just a damaged god artifact. Fairy Hao Yu caught the god artifact. A sliver of surprise appeared in her eyes, and then she handed the armor to Jian Chen. She said, Jian Chen, you probably haven't come here without reason, right? You should be searching for something. That's right, Jian Chen explained why he had come to the Yin Mountains of Seven's Despair. The expressions of the 9 god kings all changed when they heard that Jian Chen had come here in search of heavenly resources that could heal the soul. You really have come to the right place for heavenly resources that can heal the soul, Fairy Hao Yu smiled gently. She stared at the 9 god kings with deep meaning and said, according to my knowledge, you lot just happen to have a void cloud flower with you. The flower has reached the first grade of the god tier, and its main effects are to heal the soul. Moreover, it can be used as nourishment for a flower of ways. What do you want to do? The eyes of all 9 god kings sharpened. They became filled with caution. You should understand what I want. Are you going to hand it over yourselves, or do I have to come to retrieve it myself? Fairy Hao Yu said in a composed manner. The void cloud flower belongs to the 9th prince. Are you certain you want to take the 9th prince's things? You have to understand that the 9th prince is the person most likely to succeed the Blood Sun Empire as emperor. Even infinite primes have to show him some respect, the ancestor tree said in an attempt to scare off Fairy Hao Yu. Who's the 9th prince? I really haven't heard of him before. However, not only do I want the void cloud flower, but I also want the flower of ways you have planted here, said Fairy Hao Yu. Jian Chen basically understood everything from that. The 9th prince of the Eternal Blood Sun Empire of the southern region had probably stationed the 9 god kings here with the intentions of raising a flower of ways. As for Fairy Hao Yu, she had clearly come for the flower of ways. I just wonder what the flower of ways is. It seems quite precious, thought Jian Chen. The flower of ways is extremely crucial to the 9th prince. If you want the flower of ways, you'll have to step over our corpses first, said the old tree. Fairy Hao Yu's face sank. She said, if that's the case, I can only retrieve it myself then. Suddenly, Fairy Hao Yu began to shine brightly. She seemed to have become a huge moon, illuminating the surroundings with sacred and gentle light. It purged the thick miasma from the surroundings and filled the entire mountain range with a silvery glow. The moonlight engulfed all 9 god kings. The moonlight possessed the power of time. It could turn back time and mix the past with the future. Under the moonlight, the 9 people's appearances changed drastically. They became younger, while the tree and Qi Zhang's originally tremendous bodies shrank at a visible rate. An unbelievable thing was happening to their bodies. It was as if everything they had experienced in their lives were receding from them, returning them to the past. The even more terrifying part was that even their strength rapidly regressed. They fell from late God King to mid God King, and then to early God King. This is an ability of time. Oh no, she has made us return to the past, the 9 God Kings cried out as their faces became ugly. Are you certain you want to take the 9th prince's things? The 9th prince will not spare you. Even if you are an infinite prime, he'll be able to cause you quite some trouble with his authority, Duo T called out. Chapter 1885, Such puny god kings. Duo T would have been better off if he did not say that. A vicious light immediately flashed through Fairy Hao Yu's eyes in response to his words. She immediately glared at the 9 God Kings who were gradually regressing under her ability and revealed cold killing intent. If that's the case, I can only kill all 9 of you. Once you're all dead, that 9th prince won't know what happened here. Even if he learns what happens here, he won't know who took away the Void Cloud Flower and the Flower of Ways, Fairy Hao Yu said coldly. Originally, she did not come here with the intent to kill. She only wanted to take away the Flower of Ways, as it would be of great help in restoring her strength. However, Duo Ti's words made her want to kill them. Although the Blood Sun Empire was the eternal empire of the southern region and was extremely powerful, Fairy Hao Yu did not treat them with any importance at all. She was only worried about whether it would bring trouble to Jian Chen's Tian Yuan clan. It was exactly because of that she changed her plans all of a sudden, making up her mind to leave no one alive. Fairy Hao Yu grabbed at the space. A surging essence of the moon condensed in the air, instantly forming into a jade-white scepter in her hands. Even though the scepter had only been condensed from energy, it seemed exactly the same as the moon god scepter she had given to Yu Yu in the past. Fairy Hao Yu gripped the scepter as a moon shone brightly behind her. Extremely bright moonlight wrapped around her, illuminating the surroundings and the mountains. She gently swung her scepter, and 9 beams of light appeared simultaneously above the heads of the 9 God Kings. Every single beam produced powerful pulses of energy and contained the power of laws that far exceeded God King. Each and every beam was destructive. The 9 God Kings from the mountains glowed. Powerful pulses of energy emanated from their bodies. They were unwilling to just die like this. Even though they knew that they were not Fairy Hao Yu's opponent, they resisted with their full power, striking the beam of light above them as hard as they could. Boom! With a deafening sound, surging energy formed a storm. The laws and the surroundings wove into a mess. The collision created an extremely shocking disturbance as if it was about to rip through the space in the area. The entire mountain range trembled violently from the strikes as if a huge earthquake was happening. It was like the world was ending. Mountains collapsed, and the earth ripped open into huge chasms. The mountain below everyone was reduced to dust instantly. The 9 God Kings' attacks against Fairy Hao Yu really did possess the power to destroy worlds. If this were a provincial city like the one in the Dong'an province, these attacks would be enough to flatten the entire city. Even overgods would not be able to avoid death. So powerful. Jian Chen stood in the air behind Fairy Hao Yu. The terrifying ripples of energy before her were unable to reach him. He only stared on in awe as he felt extremely shocked inside. He felt that with his current strength, just the devastating ripples of energy were enough to leave him heavily injured. Fairy Hao Yu stood as still as a mountain. A screen formed from the power of laws stood before her. No matter how violent the energy was, it was unable to even ruffle her clothes. However, blood spurted from the mouths of all 9 God Kings, along with pieces of their internal organs. It fell like rain. The blood of God Kings had dyed the space red. All of them were pale and haggard now. They were extremely injured. Fairy Hao Yu was so powerful now that even when they worked together, it was basically a futile effort. Fall into formation. A God King called out. The God Kings ignored their injuries and fell into a formation as quickly as possible. They poured their strength together. Immediately, an even more tremendous pressure emanated from them. After working together, their resistance against Fairy Hao Yu's ability grew stronger and stronger. Their strength that had been suppressed to early God King recovered to mid-God King at that moment. A world set by laws, sword of chaos and annihilation. The 9 God Kings bellowed out, and their voices rang through the surroundings. Between the 9 of them, a blinding sword chi silently condensed. It directly shot towards Fairy Hao Yu with great pressure. The sword chi moved extremely fast, far quicker than Jian Chen's linear lightning release. It whistled through the air and seemed to punch through space, appearing before Fairy Hao Yu in a single instance. Jian Chen's face changed. The sword qi simply moved too quickly. It was so quick that he could not even react to it. He was not even able to see the sword qi with his naked eyes, and he could only sense the pressure it gave off. However, Fairy Hao Yu's face did not change at all. She remained just as composed as before. She lifted a slender hand of hers and gently extended it forwards. Fairy Hao Yu's movements clearly did not seem quick. As a matter of fact, it felt extremely slow. However, when she completed all her movements, the sword qi that was just about to strike her had only managed to advance a single inch. This scene would confuse many people. There seemed to be a difference in time between the two, where the flow of time was different. Disperse. Fairy Hao Yu called out gently and extended a finger. Immediately, the power of laws that had completely exceeded the level of God Kings descended, directly wrapping around the strand of sword qi. In the next moment, the sword qi that contained the power of 9 God Kings dispersed just like that. The laws that belonged to the primordial realm had directly ground it away. The expressions of the 9 God Kings changed drastically. All of them stumbled backwards uncontrollably as they stared at Fairy Hao Yu in complete fear. However, in the next moment, they looked at one another. As if they knew what each other was thinking, they all used their techniques and tried to flee without any hesitation at all. Some of them used secret techniques to escape, while others took out teleportation formation discs. In my domain, I can't let you escape. You're done for, Fairy Hao Yu said calmly. As expected, all 9 God Kings became despaired. The ones who had used secret techniques discovered that they remained stationary, while the ones who activated formation discs did not see any teleportation energy appear. I didn't want to kill you originally, but I have to kill you now, Fairy Hao Yu said emotionlessly. Killing intent appeared in her eyes, and with a wave of her staff, 9 powerful strands of moonlight force engulfed the 9 people with laws that belonged to the primordial realm. This time, the 9 God Kings were unable to resist at all. They had already been heavily injured, and their strength had been reduced. Their souls were directly wiped out under a single strike from Fairy Hao Yu. From the beginning till the end, Fairy Hao Yu had not moved from her position at all. She could suppress the God Kings with a wave of her hand and managed to slay 9 late God Kings in just a few moves. She was extremely composed throughout the entire process. Clearly, she had not used her full strength. Jian Chen watched this happen with his tongue tied. He felt like he was dreaming all the way until all 9 God Kings had died. He struggled to believe that this was real. A few decades ago, Fairy Hao Yu was only a soul. Even an Origin Realm expert could wipe her out. She was truly ant-like. However, now, she killed 9 God Kings with the flip of her hand. Since when did God Kings become so puny? Chapter 1886, God Tier Heavenly Resource. Fairy Hao Yu, have you completely recovered your strength? Jian Chen stared at Fairy Hao Yu's back. He was at quite a loss. Before him, there stood an extremely great expert, which made Jian Chen rather absent-minded. This was because he struggled to connect the invincible Fairy Hao Yu right now to the Fairy Hao Yu he had met on the Tian Yuan continent. Fairy Hao Yu turned around and stared at Jian Chen with her beautiful eyes. She shook her head. My cultivation level is only at early God King, but I've restored 80% of the power of my soul. I can use the power of laws from the primordial realm, which is why I could kill those 9 God Kings so easily. With that, Fairy Hao Yu suddenly gazed into the distance. Her deep eyes pierced through space and plunged into the very depths. She could see what was happening extremely far away. The disturbance we caused here is quite large. Quite a few people are hurrying over here right now. Let's go get the Flower of Ways and the Void Cloud Flower, said Fairy Hao Yu. With a wave of her sleeve, there was a terrifying ripple of energy that belonged to God Kings. Along with the power of laws that belonged to the primordial realm, they wrapped around Jian Chen and directly took him downwards. Jian Chen did not resist at all. Even though Fairy Haoyu had not recovered her full power yet, her strength was still evident. She could be called supreme among God Kings with her comprehension at the primordial realm, even though she was only an early God King right now. Maybe, even Protector Shui, who is ranked 9th on the God King's throne, isn't Fairy Haoyu's opponent, Jian Chen thought. He could not help but compare Protector Shui to Fairy Haoyu. In the past, Fairy Haoyu had heavily injured the strongest God King of the God clan, Adriana, reducing her to just a soul. That had completely shocked Jian Chen. In Jian Chen's heart at that time, Shui Yunlan was the most powerful existence. She had reached a state of power that he struggled to even imagine. Many mountains in the mountain range collapsed, so the flower of ways and the void cloud flower the 9 God Kings planted there were naturally buried under the rubble. Fairy Haoyu brought Jian Chen straight to the very bottom. She erupted with her God King cultivation and began to clear away the surroundings, unearthing the flower of ways and the void cloud flower. Both flowers were snow white. One possessed 9 petals and was surrounded by a white mist, obscuring the 9 petals at times. The other flower only had 3 petals. Complicated and profound patterns covered each petal. They blurred from time to time. Moreover, the patterns seemed to be still, but they also seemed to change at all times, resonating with the world and presenting the mysteries of laws. The 2 flowers did not grow in the soil. Instead, they grew on a huge, jade platform. A powerful formation was carved into the platform, protecting the 2 flowers. The flower of ways has not matured yet, so its effects will be greatly reduced, but I can't care for that much right now. Even if it's wasting it, I have no regrets as long as I can recover some of my strength, Fairy Haoyu said to herself gently. She stared at the flower with 3 white petals, and with a wave of her hand, it flew into her hand automatically. She tossed it into her space ring casually. Afterwards, the other flower with 9 petals landed in Fairy Haoyu's hand as well. She passed it to Jian Chen and said, "This is a void cloud flower. It is a first-grade God-tier heavenly resource. It's extremely effective for both healing the soul and recovering the power of the soul. Of course, the flower will be even more effective if it's refined into a pill. Unfortunately, there are just far too few alchemists who can refine God-tier heavenly resources into pills. They're just too hard to find." Jian Chen did not hold back, directly accepting the void cloud flower. However, he frowned very soon and smiled bitterly. He passed the flower back to Fairy Haoyu and said, "Fairy Haoyu, the formation on it has already reached the level of God Kings. I can't remove it." Fairy Haoyu nodded, "The people are almost here. Let's leave first and find a safe place so that I can remove the formation for you. If they see us here and that 9th prince hears about it, it'll be extremely bad for you. It might even lead to a disaster. Wait, let me take away the corpse of this golden-striped silver snake. It's of great use to me," said Jian Chen. He arrived before the golden-striped silver snake quickly and directly put the corpse away. Jian Chen also rummaged through the corpses of the other God Kings. There was only a single human among the 9 of them. The others were either magical beasts or plants. In the end, the God King level plant cores and monster cores obviously ended up in Jian Chen's hands as well. However, Fairy Haoyu took away all the space rings on the God Kings. She wanted to use the resources in there to recover her strength as soon as possible. After all that, Fairy Haoyu waved her sleeve. She made the air in the surroundings churn. The laws at the primordial realm descended and erased Jian Chen's presence from the mountain range, leaving behind only her presence. Then, she departed with Jian Chen. Soon after Fairy Haoyu and Jian Chen had left, 5 figures shot over with lightning speed. They seemed to have fused with space, moving through the air silently and with great speed. They seemed to be able to traverse a huge distance in a single instance. In the blink of an eye, they arrived on the outskirts of the mountains of Seven's Despair. Even though the 5 of them were god kings, they had all erased their presences and acted with a low profile. They stared at the very depths of the mountains sternly. It's the presence of the laws from a primordial realm expert. Has a primordial realm expert flattened the mountains of Seven's Despair? A middle-aged man asked gruffly. He was wearing purple and gold dragon robes. The 4 other god kings remained silent. They stared into the depths of the mountains as they struggled to remain calm inside. These 5 god kings were the peak experts from the nearby divine kingdom of Datian and divine kingdom of Qingyang. 2 of them wore dragon robes and seemed dignified. They were the divine kings of the divine kingdom of Datian and the divine kingdom of Qingyang. The disturbances within the mountains of Seven's Despair had drawn over all the god kings in the 2 divine kingdoms. Moreover, as time went on, more and more god kings gathered there. They came from the divine kingdom of 9 stars, divine kingdom of scarlet clouds, divine kingdom of Kaiyuan, divine kingdom of Ethercloud, divine kingdom of Balaj, and so on. Basically, all the god kings from the nearby divine kingdoms had hurried over. Even the Grand Imperial Protector of the divine kingdom of Pingtian had come. They all entered the very depths of the mountains. However, it had already been reduced to a mess in there. The shockwaves from the battle had basically flattened the mountains while the corpses of 8 god kings laid in the rubble. The presence of laws that belonged to primordial realm experts permeated the surroundings, giving off a great pressure. All the god kings who entered the place shivered in their hearts. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.